And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, for me, it's 4:05, still in the 49th state of Alaska. I actually traveled yesterday to Fairbanks and an area called the North Pole. So hopefully I'll get to see the Northern Lights. Good morning, everybody. It's your Monday morning. Marlon and John and myself, the Finest Unfiltered Network. You know, it was posed to me about a year ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Early on in the infancy of this podcast. What are you guys going to do when you run out of content? That's what the naysayers were saying. And I say it's looking pretty good so far. So, good morning, guys. Let's do it. Monday morning, let's get right into it. Is the NYPD a hostile work environment for women? Yes. I say it's a hostile work environment for anyone who's general population, but definitely for women. John, let's get into it, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with you that it's a hostile work environment for everybody. I do think it's more hostile for women, though. I think, you know, especially particularly if you're a good-looking woman, you're an attractive woman. I wonder the level of professionalism that women that come from any type of corporate work to the NYPD think, and like what they think about the professionalism of the men in the NYPD, particularly the leadership of the NYPD, because they really seem to be like a bunch of predators that use their authority to for their own personal gain, not only financially but sexually. I mean, you know, I think what I've been watching over these last 3 years, I mean, it's disgusting. We've never had a administration have so many sexual related scandals come out. And the handling of these scandals is like nothing I've ever seen. They're all arbitrary. You'll see like remember the one white captain? They lock him up and they investigate him properly, and he's thrown out of the NYPD. He's terminated almost immediately. And then you have women that are saying much worse things than what that guy was doing. And there's no criminal investigation. There's no notification to the DA's office. There's no internal affairs investigation. And everybody's just playing like dumb, you know. Another lawsuit came out this weekend, you know, and we'll get into the details of that one. But I think, yeah, 100% working in the NYPD is working in a hostile work environment, regardless of your gender. I do believe it's more hostile towards women. I think that I honestly think I wouldn't want my daughters to work there. I wouldn't want my daughters to be interns there. I wouldn't want my daughters to be around any of these people. That they are all deviants. But, you know, not all of them, but like the majority of them are deviants, and the rest of them are a bunch of cowards that aren't going to say anything. So,
yeah. Good morning, guys. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Yeah. To your point, John, I'm gonna say yeah. I agree also that it's a hostile work environment, and that's for everybody, but especially for women. And I've heard, especially for attractive women, you know, I've heard like crazy stories in the past of like supervisors. We're talking like captains, you know, making phone calls to the academy trying to find out what who a recruit is, you know. And the real question, though, I think we need to ask as we go forward is whether it's a problem that if whether NYPD has a sexual harassment problem, or whether it has like an entrenched cronyist class problem, a crony class that thinks they can just get away with whatever they want to do, you know, and have no repercussions. A same class that doesn't believe that it's unprofessional when they do it, you know. It's just unprofessional when the blue when the blue shirts do it. So I think this is going to be a good discussion. And one of the things that came up when I just did a quick search of all this of sexual harassment in the NYPD, and what struck me is how much of it involves, again, that supervisory class. So think we're gonna have a great discussion today, and I think that chat might be on fire today as well.
You know, I like to keep in mind that when we talk about mostly women that are attractive, that this is not necessarily about sexual attraction. I don't think that what's going on is about sexual attraction, because you could be in a position of leadership and still and have beautiful women working for you and find them attractive, but be professional, because you have discipline, you're stoic, and you separate that dichotomy between professionalism and leisure. So, are there relationships in the NYPD? Yeah, there's plenty. Excuse me, plenty of men and women in the police department that get married, have relationships, and that's not what we're talking about here. I think ultimately, and I even saw someone say, "Oh, lieutenants shouldn't have female drivers." Now, there are issues and front level supervision and lower management, but I think ultimately what we're talking about now is what's going on at the upper management, the top tier leadership of the NYPD. And ultimately, I think the reason why we see such sexual deviancy and predatory behavior is what we talk about this podcast. And women are the byproduct of it in the NYPD. And they're paying for weak egos. They're paying for men that are dangerous because they're in this position and they do not have the stoicism, the professionalism. They don't have the strength to be strong men. They're men of weakness. And this is how they exert their power, by showing their dominance over women. Them being sexually attractive is a byproduct, but it's because of dominance, exerting their power. And then when someone challenges it, like Dana and Rachelin, they box them into a position and close their mouths and hush them, and then project them to appear that there's some type of emotionally disturbed person if they speak out. I think that ultimately it's about dominance and it's about weak egos. And it correlates to what you're saying, Marlon. It correlates to that we have cronyism and nepotism, and we have just a complete mishmash of unprofessional, weak egos, men of low integrity at the top tier of the NYPD. And this is why we see such deviancy.
Yeah, so Detective Jasmine Walls, 31, said she was harassed for over a year and abused by her partner, Detective Carlos Zambrano, who allegedly groped her. And so she says that when she reported this, she was the one that was targeted. So, you know, I hear I hear a lot of grumblings about everyone. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, all these women, they're all liars." Okay. I'm like, if that's the case, then why isn't there a standard of practice when these allegations are made? Why isn't there a standard of investigation when these allegations are made? Why isn't there a standard of how we handle men and how we handle the women that report these allegations? The men that these allegations are made against and the women that report these allegations. There should be a standard of practice. There should be, because, you know, some women I see treated immediately as victims, and I see men treated completely as predators, and other women I see treated as if they're insane, as if nothing they're saying is true, even though they have hard evidence of it, hard evidence that it happened, and their allegations are completely ignored. And there's only one difference that I see. It depends who's in with the in crowd and who isn't, right? And so, like, I don't know that this allegation is truthful. I don't know that this allegation isn't. The only thing I know is that in the last 3 years, I've seen a complete breakdown in the NYPD on how they investigate these allegations. And if even a quarter of what she's saying is true here, these are serious problems within the NYPD. Serious breakdown. You know, if you can't keep your own employees safe, if this is how you treat your own employees who are victims of sex crimes, how do we expect the NYPD to treat the public? How do we? Because, I mean, to me, like, everything seems arbitrary to me. The handling of every single one of these allegations is completely off the wall to me. I don't understand it at all, and it really bothers me. It bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot when a woman, she might be, maybe I don't know, maybe one of these women has mental issues. Maybe they do. So then why weren't the proper notifications made of the allegations she was making, along with the proper notifications about your concern for our mental health, right? Like, there should have been numerous actions that happened here that didn't. And this is what we've been seeing time and time and time again in the NYPD. It's honestly, it's almost a predatory enabling society within the NYPD. You're allowed to be a predator towards women in the NYPD, and I agree with you, Eric. Like, there needs to be look, in the corporate world, right? I worked in the corporate world for a while before I went into the NYPD. I still deal with corporate entities today. There are a lot of attractive women in the corporate world. I mean, I don't understand how the NYPD is hiring people that they can't keep their hands, their mouth intact, or like, even their eyes to themselves. How they can't act as if professionals. I mean, and the worst part is most of these guys are married men who claim to be God-fearing individuals, and I see anything but the ability to control themselves. And it's like, should these people be walking around with a badge and a gun? Should they have the authority to be arresting you if they can't even keep themselves, keep their hands to themselves and keep their mouths shut? Like, to me, it's disgusting, man. Honestly, it's completely disgusting, and it's infuriating to hear people go to bat for these people and say, people, these women, they're all liars. There's so many women looking to get ahead. Okay, true, maybe, and guess what? Again, like, I'll go back to the whole Marjorie thing. A lot of people like, oh, he didn't force himself on her. That was consensual. That was this. That was that. Should have never happened. And whose fault is it ultimately? It's his. It's his. He's the supervisor. This one's different. It's a partner. It's not like that the masculine supervisor authority figure like the rest of them that we've seen over these last 3 years have been. But I mean, the majority of it is you're still in a position of power. You're still physically dominant over a woman. You should act like a gentleman at all times, especially in the NYPD.
Oh, absolutely. And the irony here is that the leadership is we're talking the same leadership that says that promotes a lot of these progressive causes, and like openly like receives awards from a lot of these progressive groups. I remember, I think it might be going on 2 years now, or at least a year and a half. Marjorie going to the fraternal organization of police women. I think they had something at the academy, and I remember him standing there, and I was gonna meme it. That's why I remember it, because I remember I was gonna throw a fox's head on Marjorie's body, because he was literally in the hen house there. It's crazy that these are the same guys that promote these progressive causes, and yet when it comes, like you said last week, John, it's believe all women, except not when it not when it pertains to them. And I think the biggest issue is here is that this cuts to the heart of a lot of the issues in the NYPD. We're talking like the weaponization of medical division, the cronyism, the hypocrisy, and for those of you who says, well, I'm sure there's more to it, and I'm sure the women play a part in it. I'd like to say that you should slow down, because I'll tell you what, from my experience with medical division, when I suggested that they look further into the scamdemic, the vax, right, and the response from medical division was to try and get me in trouble, try and to call my chief and tell him that I was being discourteous, and that was for the vax, but just think of it for a second, okay? they sent this woman to medical division. Okay, all right. The entire system is like weaponized against you and against whistleblowers, you know. And if a woman speaks up, okay, you, if the system had transparency and fairness involved in it, then the process itself would be able to sift through the claims, you know. But it doesn't, you know. Instead, the system retaliates against you for speaking up and for calling attention to these issues. So it's a problem that cuts to the heart of every issue that we've spoken about on this podcast. Every issue that's a problem, currently a problem in the NYPD, that needs to be that contributes to the rot that's happening now in the system, and it needs to be cleared out.
Well, I think ultimately in the workplace, back to what we've been saying, everything we have said for the past 3 years, everything in the workplace leads back to leadership. Everything. And the leadership sets the model for respectful behavior. And that's where the breakdown comes. Because in this top tier, and I say tier 1, that's the upper echelon of the police department, we have weak egos. We have unqualified leadership who are in positions that have no self-control, that they care more about their own self-image, right? And the workplace has become a place, an environment that's just completely unprofessional, right? And ultimately, the only way to segue into something that is more professional is by having consequences for violators on a level playing field, regardless of rank. That you'll never see because we have a 3-tiered system in the NYPD. And the other issue is when it comes to let me just say, when it comes to sexual harassment or sexual deviant allegations, they're pretty much impossible to prove or disprove. So we need measures in place to prevent even having these allegations arise. And that's something that I think that's completely lacking in the NYPD, is there's nothing in place to prevent these things. There's no actual teachings, maybe just a video. There should be actual seminars. There should be legitimate education on how to behave in the workplace. Just as when you become a leader, some people are born leaders, but for the most part, leadership is a skill that you learn. And there should be education on how to promote a professional environment. And we don't have that to prevent these measures. And then if there are allegations that do arise, there needs to be a level playing field on how it's handled to investigate it and stop it from going any further, and to maintain that professional structure and integrity of the NYPD. And unfortunately, that's where it's lacking. So, you know, we're putting an emphasis on women, but right now, anyone in general population, it's a hostile environment, but especially for women, because particularly if a woman does make an allegation, immediately she's going to be retaliated against as a whistleblower. Just as Tom Donlin said in his lawsuit, a woman will be severely retaliated against. And one of those should be, maybe slut shamed. And that's what creates an even more hostile environment, because now they're in a professional environment where they want to be seen as a cop, and now they're being slut shamed. But it comes from the leadership. It comes from a lack of professionalism. It comes from a lack of responsibility, and it comes from a lack of accountability.
So I agree with you on certain allegations that they're hard to prove, but I think like most of the stuff we've read recently, there's actual hard evidence of crimes and inappropriate workplace behavior, and absolutely nothing was done. And so when it's just a mere allegation with not much proof, I think the NYPD has been around long enough, and this has been going long enough, way prior to this administration, that there has been a set standard of practice in place, but has broken down under the Adams administration. And, again, most of these stories that I'm reading, including this one, this isn't an internal workplace problem. it's not. I don't know. I think I was talking to Marlon the other day. I don't remember who I was talking to, and I was like, you know what boggles my mind about the NYPD? We're out there. Somebody makes an allegation or somebody reports a crime outside of work, right? Not a member of the NYPD, a citizen reports a crime. We take a report, we investigate, we make an arrest, we present it to the DA's office. When crimes happen inside the NYPD, sexual crimes, whatever type of crimes, that standard of practice goes out the window. There's no criminal complaint taken. There's no investigation done. There's no arrest made. There's no bringing anything to the DA's office. We treat it like, oh, it's just a workplace issue. It's like, no, it's not a workplace issue when you have a bunch of women saying that they're being hawked. Amazing Aunt says, I'm going to get heat for this. But if a woman doesn't sleep with a boss, there is more hostility. Integrity cannot be bought. So, I'll be honest with you, I was always scared of girls on the job. I was like, I never had a problem getting women my whole life, so I didn't need to use my uniform to do so, nor my rank. So I was on the other end of the spectrum where, I made sergeant, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, did girl cops hit on me when I was a cop? Yeah. But when I made sergeant, I would say that girl cops hit on me a lot more. And I was very weary and leery and stayed very far away from them. So there's two ends of the spectrum. There are women there that are looking to, I don't know if they're just attracted because you're a supervisor. I don't know if they're looking for something for you, but there are women there that are more attracted to supervisors for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe they like, oh, this guy makes more money. He appears to be more masculine. He could help me in my career. I don't know what those factors are, but there's that. And, story after story, on the other note, we hear about supervisors that use their rank to try to be able to coerce women into having sex with them or to have a relationship with them. And I don't think anybody could deny that. We've seen how many, I think every class of sergeants that comes out, male sergeants, there's a guy that's happily married with kids that next thing you know, he's dating a rookie cop and he leaves his family behind. It happens time and time again. So it's not like all of these factors are happening, but I just think that we don't, there's not enough emphasis on the problems, and there's not enough standard of practice when these issues arise. And it's honestly, it's like high school. It's like high school without any security guards and without any principals and without any supervisors. It really is a mess. And if it gets really out of hand, then we'll do something about
it. Yeah. There's a lot of points in there, I think this actually happens a lot. And I just think that most women know how to send it back to them, and shut a lot of these guys down. I've seen it. This is why I'm saying this. I've seen it, and I've also been there when some of these dudes are making these comments that I'm like, oh, this is. Let me get out the room before I end up in some GO15. For those of you watching, a GO15 is basically the interview. It's the interview you go for when basically internal affairs or one of these investigative units are speaking to you. So anyway, I think a lot of the problems come from poor supervision as well. Now, so in this article by Jasmine Walls and Detective Zambrano, it's mentioned that the supervisors they were well aware of Zambrano's behavior, right? And they didn't intervene. Now, in those instances where I've seen that behavior myself, I've seen supervisors remain silent on it, even though they knew it was going on too. And I never understood why supervisors just don't call that person in the room and be like, dude, cut the crap out, Just this is the final. I'm giving you one warning on it, and you better cut the crap out, and that's it. Because ultimately, when these guys continue that behavior, it draws a spotlight on your unit, and you don't want that spotlight, So to me, I don't understand why supervisors allow that behavior to go on. And I'll say this to John's point, that for as long as men and women are working in the workforce, a lot of these issues have gone on. In particular, like the women who go after supervisors, because like once you make supervisor, there's a certain amount of power and certain amount of masculinity that exudes from you now being the guy in charge. So that's nothing new. And neither is workplace dating, but the job has rules for that. The problem isn't so much that those things exist. The problem is that we have rules, and those rules aren't being followed, and there's no consequence from supervision from supervisors when they see that behavior happening in the workplace. And there's no adequate leadership in charge to tell guys cut the crap out. And so as long as that continues, this is gonna continue and get worse. And that's probably a lot of reasons why we're hearing a lot more of it now, because again, women have been in the NYPD for decades. So I think it'd be a little naive of us to think that this is just a recent happening. I think you're hearing about it more because the leadership is so bad. And one last thing, this detective comes from Brooklyn North. And what have we been hearing from Brooklyn North the last couple of years? Who's been in charge? You've had Madry there. You've had Henderson there. You Chell was there. So again, there seems to be that same pattern of behavior coming from the upper echelon of Brooklyn North. And a guy like Zambrano, you have to wonder, when I look at the 58, it shows him in the 9-0 for basically his whole career. So you have to wonder if he knew some of these guys, the upper echelon, which it might have been the reason why supervisors didn't tell him anything when the behavior was going on.
Well, this goes back to why I say leadership is so important of who is appointed to those positions, that we have integrity, morality, and we have strong men with professionalism and stoic in those positions, because ultimately I think this comes down to this is a power struggle. If we're talking about now that predominantly most women that are victims of sexual harassment usually are attractive women, right? For the most part, right? There are exceptions, but for the most part, it's an attractive woman. So now it's a power struggle in the power dynamics of, well, maybe it's someone who's sexually attractive that numerous, especially in this type of environment where it's heavy, it's top heavy with men, especially the leadership, and they're vying for for this woman's attention. Everyone's vying for her attention. Now, well, I got the rank. You're a captain. Well, I'm an inspector. You're an inspector. I'm a chief. And now that power dynamics can lead to success by winning the prize, and the prize is that woman. And that's why I say it comes to leadership, and it's more about not even about to me, it's not about the sex. It's not about about dating the woman. It's about power, showing, well, I got the power that I could do it. This power that I have a prestigious position. I'm high up in leadership. I have the ability to drive any car I want. I have the ability to make decisions that are not challenged. There's so much power at the top tier of the police department. And now I could also get any woman I want. So to me, I think this really is about power. And that's why with power comes extreme amount of responsibility, accountability, and of course, liability. And that's why I say, where are the checks and balances? And that's what's lacking in this police department, because we don't have an internal affairs bureau. We have a selective affairs bureau. So, Marlon, you're talking about consequences, and that's why I said the consequences have to be on a level playing field. That's the only way it would stop. That if you violate sexual harassment policies, or actually violate the law and commit a crime, and a sexual assault or some type of crime of sexual allegation, well, we need a level playing field, that it's actually properly investigated, that if you violate those policies, that you're actually if they utilize that there's discipline matrix, that there is a level playing field of discipline, and also if this is going to be referred for criminal actions, that we also see a level playing field with that also. But we don't, because there's a 3-tiered assessment in the NYPD. And ultimately, every podcast that we talk about, when there's issues in the police department, it goes back to leadership, and especially when it comes to sexual harassment. And we see an epic fail. And John Scola on Sal Greco's show said it best. If anyone in the chat here, our friends and listeners, if you have an opportunity, listen to John Scola. He's an attorney, and he was on Sal Greco's show. And he says, the NYPD doesn't put measures in to stop issues. They just pay. They just keep paying lawsuits so that the top tier can keep playing their games and enjoy their amenities, and they just pay. And they just pay. And ultimately, who pays for it? The taxpayer. So there's nothing in place to stop this. There's no preventive measures. There's no standards. There's no comparisons. There's no metrics to measure. Now, let's play devil's advocate. I will say, on the other hand, are there some women that capitalize on that vulnerability of some weak supervisors? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there women that capitalize on utilizing their sexual attraction to move up within the police department, not necessarily in rank, but to get more amenities? Yes. But that's why there has to be this professional environment where there's education for men and women on how to conduct yourself in the workplace to prevent allegations. But we're not doing that because we don't teach our leadership. You go to a seminar for a month and get a couple of seminars that doesn't lead to actual training. We need legitimate leadership training, and we need sexual harassment policy training, actual training, and constantly reminded on how to maintain integrity and keep a professional environment. Professional for men, professional for women, and ultimately that leads to good product for the public. And if we're having all these issues of allegations and a weak leadership, it leads to lawsuits, it leads to hostile work environments, and that's not good for the police department, for morale, and it's bad for the public. So everyone pays.
You know, I just think, like, honestly, like I blame the men a lot, right? I blame the men because if you allow yourself to be coaxed by a woman on the job and then she makes allegations against you, I still don't feel bad for you. I just don't. I'm like, okay, all right. Like, so you were weak. You let yourself get manipulated. You couldn't see through what was happening, and you gave in because I think at the end of the day, it ultimately comes down to that these guys want sex. I think, you know, when you look at a lot of these guys, I don't think that they ever were in a position where women liked them. I don't think that if they went to a bar without their authority, I don't think if they were hanging out as kids and the youth, I don't think that when they were in college or when they were working, I just don't think women found them so attractive. I think a lot of them are socially awkward. I don't think they're attractive men. I don't think that they have good personalities. And I think that a lot of them are a bunch of cornballs who really never had sex until they became into the police department. Maybe they married one woman, and then next thing you know, you're out there and you're meeting girls, and girls are actually talking to you because now you're cool. You could see it in the way they walk. You could see it in the way they present themselves. You know, you always could tell, like, the supervisor who's a real loser and the supervisor who is like a normal dude, you know, or a normal guy, right? Because it's how they walk. It's everything. Oh, they walk with their chest puffed out. All of a sudden they're big. You know, I used to always love, like, seeing these little chiefs walking around like they could bench press 300 pounds. I'm like, if we weren't cops and I walked over and smacked this guy in the face, he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't do anything. You know, he would just stand there. And I'm like, you know, it's like, to me, it's a lot of ego. It's a lot of exercising authority. And I honestly don't feel bad for anybody because I really think that, especially in policing, there's no time to have relationships in policing, especially sexual relationships in nature. I think it's dangerous. I think it's unfair. It leads to nepotism. But I agree with you, Marlon. This has always been going on, but not to this level. Just not at this level. It just has not. It just, I mean, if we just did an article search, I mean, you would see that right now it's like the peak of insanity right now. And we have a woman leading the police department. You have two women leading the police department. You have Jessica Tisch and you have Tanya Kinsella, all about the women empowerment movement, right? But I also think that if you really get down to it, they were victimized and marginalized as well. I often like talk about Tanya Kinsella, how it's her fault about the overtime, and I do believe, and as it relates to her being the first deputy commissioner, she was in charge of that, but she was also bullied, and she was also bullied by a bunch of men all around her. And really, what could she really do about it? I mean, if she would have stood up about it, it would have been the end of her career. Right? She's been marginalized to that point. We've seen that Keechant Sewell was marginalized. We've seen that they marginalized a man, Tom Donlan. You don't think they're marginalizing Jessica Tisch right now? And to me, I honestly think that, I don't feel bad for anybody in it. I feel bad if, in fact, a woman was sexually harassed and then reported it and was retaliated against. That I'll feel bad about. But I think there's a lot of blame on the overall how the NYPD operates, and I put most of the emphasis of the blame on the men, because you should be smarter than that. You should be able to go out and meet women after work. You should be able to be smart enough to keep your thing in your pants at work. And guess what, dude? You didn't get better looking when you made sergeant. You didn't get better looking when you made lieutenant. Yeah, girls threw themselves out, and you didn't know how to deal with it because it's the first time it ever happened to you. So that's really the main problem,
Yeah, I'm gonna say this has always been going on. The reason we're hearing about it now is because what I think is happening is that you have both a weak leadership and you have a lot of beta men coming in. Now to my last point, I'm saying that because we're seeing a lot of other incidents that are popping up involving young cops and not just the older ones. Okay, I'm talking like the cop that was sexting the 14-year-old, and the cop in Staten Island who traveled all the way to Texas to for a child. So we're having like issues on two different levels there, and I think it all comes down to leadership and setting standards. And I'll also say this, that like you said, it kind of cuts two ways. I mean, during this time that the issue with Officer Walls, Detective Walls and Zambrano was going on, you had Tanya Meisenholder in EEO. And then you had Wendy Garcia in the EEO. And what have we learned? That both of them seem to be concerned with other things besides actually doing their job, and actually upholding the standards that were there. In the case of Wendy Garcia, she's too busy partying with the other poor leadership in the NYPD at Concert Frito, and Tanya Meisenholder is more obsessed with doing with some other globalist agenda than actually helping to create a equitable workforce and a transparent workforce. So I think that it cuts both ways, that there are weak men in the NYPD in the leadership ranks, but there are also weak women who haven't been doing their job in the last couple of years because they've been too busy being part of that cronyism class. But I also want to say that a lot of these guys who, what I don't understand is that when you're in uniform, right? If you're a dude who you take care of yourself and you look good in the uniform, you just walk outside there and you have women trying to talk to you. I mean, like, well, when I'm on the job, I'm not thinking about picking up a woman cop. That's the last thing on my mind. My mind is on the game and getting in there and getting a collar or answering my radio runs. If that's what's on your mind there, you have to wonder the quality of work that these guys are doing, because if you're a detective, we've talked about this in the past, the amount of caseload detectives are having now, right? And especially with the shortage of detectives. If you got time to do that, I wonder where your case is at, I mean, that'd be the last thing on my head if I have like a queue of 30 cases this month. But again, we have an NYPD that's more concerned with doing these things than standards or their job.
Well, it actually solidifies what we've been talking about in this podcast, that for over a year, that Kaz Daughtry was pretty much playing the role of quasi police commissioner, playing the role of quasi chief of department. We didn't see Jeffrey Maddrey for over a year. He was kind of MIA. And what do we say? Most of the time, we understood that he was studying for the bar, right? That's what everyone knew. That not only was he studying for the bar, but obviously he wasn't focused on police work, and he was focused on getting his amenities that he was getting, being the chief of the department. And that's why Kaz Daughtry was front and center. You're absolutely right, Marlon. If you're actually legitimately focused and concentrating and working so hard, that you're not going to even have time for these issues in the workplace. Here's another issue I want to talk about. It's the same thing we've been talking about in this podcast today, about standards and about there's different tiers in the police department, and there's not a level playing field. So Sleepy Joe says, infamous 4-4 Christmas party, never forget. Look at that incident, right? We had a young rookie female police officer dancing, kind of a lap dance style dance on a lieutenant in the 4-4 precinct. They were off duty. I think maybe it was a work party function or not. But that was far less egregious than what we're seeing going on right now. These allegations that we're seeing right now are borderline criminal. And some of them are criminal, of these allegations that we see. And that lieutenant was transferred. His wife was completely shamed. Reporters came to the house because the police department didn't put a lid on it. And I think the arm of the police department that came down on that lieutenant was far more severe than what we've seen happen to Jeffrey Maddrey for giving away over $200,000 in overtime and preying on former Lieutenant Epps. I think that's a big comparison. And yet that lieutenant faced the arm of the police department. That's because of the Selective Affairs Bureau, and that's because it's different tiers. Obviously, he was part of general population, but if Jeffrey Maddrey can give a woman over $200,000 overtime so that he can please his own needs, and he retired into total bliss. I mean, we can see the comparison right there. There's completely, we say it all the time, there's different tiers. That is just more evidence that there are different tiers within the NYPD.
100%. Life after the job says Me Too movement from the finest Unfiltered. What happened to the innocent until proven guilty? 27 years. I've seen multiple allegations against male supervisors that I knew were consensual until the victim didn't get what they wanted. And he puts the victim in parentheses. So let me just, I know a lot of you guys have a hard time using your brains. So let me just put it to you bluntly. There is no consensual sexual relationship when your supervisor is sleeping with a subordinate. There is no such thing as a consensual sexual relationship when your supervisor is sleeping with the subordinate. Right? So, do I feel bad for you? No, you're a moron. You got coaxed. You're an idiot. You didn't get better looking. She didn't like you, bro. You're an idiot. Did he get victimized? Maybe, but he was an idiot. The bottom line is this. When you're a supervisor, you should have integrity, right? How could I trust you not take money from a burglary scene, from when you go do a search warrant, when you lock someone up? How could I trust that you can't take money but when you can't keep your thing in your pants? You can't even do it with the people you work with, your subordinates. I can't trust you at all. I personally think right now, if you're a supervisor and you're sleeping with your subordinate, I personally think it's grounds for termination. That's what corporate gets right over NYPD, is they will terminate you in a heartbeat. That is the difference. Does it happen? Yeah, but they'll terminate. You're both gone. I don't want to deal with it. You weren't supposed. We have rules in this. We have rules here. You broke them. See you later. And this is what this shit leads to. This is what it leads to. You didn't get better looking, bro. You think at 36 when you're fat, this is the first time girls all of a sudden find you attractive? Come on, dude. Come on. So no, I'm not. There's no Me Too movement here. This is a wake-up call for guys that are fat slobs who never got girls in their life, who now enter the police department and use their authority to have to go out and find partners that are their subordinates or throughout. This is a wake-up call for everybody. Again, it's not my rules. It's the law. And you know what's going to happen to you? You're going to lose your career. You're going to lose your money. You're going to be shamed all over the paper. And for the rest of your life, you're going to be known as a sexual predator. Oh, but it was consensual. No, it wasn't consensual, because that's what we're told in society. Follow the rules or don't. Sounds like pretty decent rules to me, honestly. If I'm building an organization, I'm going to actually agree with that. You're a supervisor. You shouldn't sleep with your subordinate. And that goes for females too.
Yeah, you're just putting yourself in a situation that's gonna, there's gonna be issues involving it. I mean, it's like what are they? What these women that that are your subordinates? What are they? The only women in the world? I mean, like, seriously. You see, the problem is that a lot of these guys, they make boss and it goes to their head. They start believing the hype, and then you have years of going up the ranks and nobody can. It's like it's like ingrained in them now. And that's how you get to a guy like Marjorie doing that repeatedly, and not having the wisdom to, even at the point where he reached the upper echelon of 1PP, not having the wisdom to say, hey, wait a minute, I managed to get away with it all this time. Maybe it's time that I stop this, and look what happened to him. He ruined a perfectly good career. When I was a cop in Brooklyn North, I was a young cop. I remember hearing about Marjorie and how the community loved him. And back then, I think he was just a 7.5 commanding officer. So by the time he gets to being the chief of Brooklyn North, I thought, sure, this guy was probably headed to being chief of department one day, and maybe even a candidate for PC at some point. And you know what happened? Other people were saying this too. And you know what happened? Marjorie deep sixed his own career. Think of it for a second. How you have it boggles my mind that a guy like that couldn't have enough control to put his to be professional and not ruin a such a great a great career. And sure enough, he ruined it. And even after reaching the upper echelon of NYPD, he had to torpedo it. So the problem is these guys let it get to their head, and after years, they start losing any sort of self-control and any sort of they don't reflect on the situation, and eventually the situation comes back to bite them in the ass, like it did Marjorie.
Well, we also have to discuss, especially we see the problem. I think the problem with this administration is because we have a bunch of cronyism, which we said earlier, Marlon. And that's really the major problem with this administration is costing taxpayers so much money right now with all these lawsuits. And that's why ultimately we need to discuss what is the plan moving forward. Does the NYPD have preventive measures in place? Do they have steps to take place when allegations do arise? Do they have steps in place to stop it from happening? What is the repercussions? And how do they handle allegations, right? For one, and I think that's what you said earlier, John, I think that's what's important is how do we operate to protect men from allegations, potential frivolous allegations, and how do we protect women from being uncomfortable in a work environment? And I see fault on both parts, but ultimately, the major problem that we see is this administration with leadership. And everything we say ultimately comes down to leadership. We talk about a sergeant and their driver. Do these things happen? Yes. But where is this behavior noticed from? Where's it learned from? It's from the upper echelon. We watch the leadership, and for the most part, the leadership sets the tone. And that's where we need, especially in this administration. The leadership has to set the tone, but there has to be steps in place, not just watch a video. There has to be measures in place. And yes, John, there are some so blatant But there are some cases where it's pretty much impossible to prove or disprove. And if you get an allegation, these allegations sometimes are just as damaging and can ruin your reputation just as being found guilty. So we have to find measures to protect men and women. And ultimately, the only way is to get rid of these bums that are in the upper echelon of the police department right now. We need good leadership that have respect for themselves, have respect for the entire police department, and have respect for the public. But it's lacking. It's lacking because we have people that only care about themselves. It's about self-promotion. It's about paving the way for their offspring. And that's what they care about, is getting for me. There's no standards. Again, we spoke about, and I see more people talking in the chat about that 4-4 lieutenant, right? I mean, they were having fun. It was just a goof. Them playing around. And yet, that lieutenant was completely demonized. I mean, I think it probably destroyed his entire marriage. And, and it turns out that girl was a complete mess. After that, she got involved in a DWI where she was fighting with the cops in Jersey. She was involved in other instances, and there was no repercussions to her. So I see problems on both ends, but ultimately, it comes down to leadership. It comes down to having a level playing field, and we have to stop with these 3 different tiers. Where tier 1, you can walk on water, and they have so much authority. And we hear people say, like a good friend Ron Layson talking about how Terrell Anderson, when he was in candidate assessment, he had access but not authority. And that's the problem with this upper echelon. They have access to everything. It's access to everything, and they have the authority to do whatever they want. And they use this power to cultivate their weak egos. It takes strong people, professional people, to have a professional environment.
Yeah, I don't think there's any place for workplace relationships. If you guys really like each other, seek transfers. That's it. Yeah, we're in a relationship, we're getting transferred. That's it. End of story. I don't feel bad for you. You can tell me any story you want. I'm just not gonna feel bad for you. You know what I mean? Whether you were the victim of the Me Too movement or not, because again, you see the standard. What's the standard? Supervisors shouldn't sleep with their subordinates. I mean, I don't think it's that hard. I don't. People are like, oh, but we're working so much, I get it, right? We're human, right? You work 7 days a week and you don't have sex for 7 days. I get it. You're horny. And then that girl's in the car and she's attractive, which is why you're working with an attractive girl when you haven't had sex in 7 days, right? Why are you doing that? And then she turns around and you're working and she's like, oh my God, I'm so whatever. And you're like, because you're a man, you're weak. You put yourself in that situation. You put yourself there. If I go out to a bar and I meet 2 pretty women, I'm married, and they're like, hey, what are you doing after? Oh, I'm going home to my wife. I don't go out with them anymore. I don't hang out with them anymore. I don't put myself in the situation. It's not so hard to ask cops to not fuck each other. I'm sorry. It's just not. If you can't do it, you don't have integrity. You don't have self-control. You shouldn't be a cop. It's that simple. I can't trust that you can't keep your physical wants and desires out of the workplace. I can't trust that you won't keep all of your other wants and desires out of the workplace. It's that simple. It's not hard. It's really not hard. It's totally understandable that if you're a police officer, you're the overseer for the public that day, and you're expected to see all of the ills of the world and not partake. But what you're saying is, no, it's not fair that we're not allowed to partake at work. No, it's damn fair. It's real fair. It's really fair. I mean, I don't see how this is hard. Again, I've had it all happen to me on the job, and I didn't do it. I can tell you story after story after story, and I've never bit on any of it. I didn't stay late at the Christmas parties. I didn't hang out after work. I just didn't, because I was afraid of them, especially when you're a supervisor. Especially when you're a supervisor. You should be scared stiff of women, right? And look what happens. Look what happens. You know what I used to tell everyone? You'd get the hot woman who's walking around. All of a sudden, you got big biceps when you don't. And I would tell them, that's a career ender right there, bro. You better be careful. That's your career ender. That's a divorce. That's you living somewhere that you don't want to be. That's you not seeing your kids. Smarten up. Smarten up.
Yeah, I think this is a problem it's like I said before, I think it's getting worse because you're just hearing more incidents that to me would be shocking years ago, you know. You heard the incident with the recruits in the bathroom stall in the academy, and you hear like multiple instances of cops, the narco guys, the guys in the Bronx in 2021. So I think this issue is getting worse, as time goes on, and especially as I've said before, that I think the unfortunately, I think like the younger generation cops I think a lot of them are softer, and I think I think you're gonna find less alphas in them than you do in the older generations, and the thing is, as they get onto the job and as they become the leadership of the job, you have to wonder if we're going to see this even more, because again, you have less alphas. That means you're going to have less bosses that are going to tell these guys to cut the crap out. And then you're going to have more instances of these on-duty booty and some variation on the job. And so I also think that you got to wonder how much these guys actually want to be a cop, because if you're willing to sacrifice, a moment of pleasure for a career that you wanted, as for me, I wanted to be a detective since I was a kid, and there was nothing that was gonna come in my way of becoming a detective, So if you're willing to throw a career away for a couple of minutes of pleasure, then I have to seriously wonder how much you actually want this job, and how much you actually want to become a cop.
Well, I think we're talking about two. I think we're talking about 2 and 3 different things, in a sense that there are relationships that go on in the police department in comparison to what sexual harassment is. I think this is a complete different thing. What Jeffrey Madry was engaged in was not a relationship. That completely violated.
Totally disagree with you, by the way. Totally disagree with you.
But let me finish my thought before you interrupt. There's a complete different dichotomy here, right? Sexual harassment, what Jeffrey Madry did, there's no relationship there. But there are cops. We have Christmas parties. People go out to the Christmas party, and they find attraction for each other. That's completely different than sexual harassment. Maybe there's 2 cops that are dating. One becomes a sergeant. So there are going to be people that outrank each other in different relationships. The question is, what I find is you should not get into a relationship because you can have power over that woman and benefit, or she gets to a relationship with you because she can move up within the department. So I think we're talking about something different. Are there cops that are dating and then some move up and get ranked within the job? Yes, it happens. But I think what you're talking about, I think relationships and sexual harassment is something completely different. There are going to be relationships. There are going to be dynamics with different ranks. But I think if you're engaged, if you take a girl to be your driver because you can get over on her and take her home, that's not a relationship. That's why I said earlier, it's about power. Now you're using your power. But people do go to Christmas parties. They have relationships. And the question is, are they engaged because there's a power struggle? Now, yes, if they do get into a relationship, yes, they should be transferred. It's a better environment, or not work so closely to have a professional environment. But these things do happen. But I think what we're talking about, like Jeffrey Madry and these sexual allegations that we're seeing, is what makes it a hostile work environment. I think it's something completely different. You're gonna have, you've had captains that have relationships with police officers because they go on with their careers. But someone gets promoted several times. Things like that do happen. They shouldn't work directly with each other. But I think what we're talking about is relationships that have a benefit, either benefit for the woman or benefit for the man. But unfortunately, because of this weak leadership, most of them are because these guys can do it. And I don't think it's about sex. I really don't. I think it's about power.
I just got to go back to it because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, Madry was in a relationship, 100%. They were in a sexual relationship. What's the basis of all relationships? It starts with sexual attraction. You know what I mean? Whether like, and I get what you're saying as far as like off-duty relationship, going on dates, going away together. I understand where you're getting there, but at the basis fact of it, what comes down to it, it's all the same thing. It's all like these allegations don't happen if you don't start relationships at work. They don't happen. They don't happen. They all stem from the same thing: attraction to each other and sex. And I think they have no place at work. Now, do some of them work out? Yeah. But you took a really big risk, dude. You took a really big risk. Someone said here, women are the new alphas of the relationship. No, but like when I won't say that women are new alphas in relationships, but what I will say is that like everyone's so quick to blame women, like, oh, they're all lying. First of all, they're not all lying. Some of them are lying, 100%. Some of them are lying, but not all of them are lying. But for the ones that are lying, for those ones, you open that up because you started a relationship with her. You were like, oh, whatever it is, whether you were just banging at work, you were banging in the car after work, and then you didn't do anything, or you legitimately really cared about her and you really liked her and she was your whole world. It's a relationship, and the only way to stop yourself and protect yourself from frivolous allegations is don't do it. It's that simple. And then especially when you're a supervisor, there is no consensual relationship. So the minute she turns on you, you piss her off. You thought you were in love with her, but then you find out, you know what? I'm not. I'm really in love with the new rookie. Not her. She's the 2-year rookie. She's not, she put on about 30 pounds since we first came out. That academy body's not there no more. And now you're really in love with the new girl that just got out of the academy. You got a big problem, dude. If she says anything, now it could have been a completely consensual relationship, but it all stems from that relationship factor. And I can't. The only way to avoid it is just to not do it. That's it. You know how you don't get DWI'd? You don't drive drunk. That's how you do it. You don't drive drunk. You take an Uber or you don't drink. That's how you don't get DWI'd. You take the feather out of the hat. You know how you don't get sexual allegations? Don't sleep with your subordinates.
Marlon, you mind if I jump in for a second?
No.
That's what I'm saying. I think we're actually saying the same thing. If someone works directly for you and you have power over them and you can change their assignments, you can decide where they work. Yes, those relationships you should not engage with. And that's why I'm saying Madge's relationship was not a healthy relationship. That's not a real relationship. He had power over her. What I'm saying is if there's a captain in a location and he's working with a sergeant and they're not working directly for each other and he doesn't have a power dynamic over her, I don't have an issue if they engage in a relationship. That's what I'm saying. Are there two cops that could work together and get into a relationship that are partners? Yes, and then one goes off and makes sergeant. Or if there's two partners and they end up having a relationship, yes, that partnership should split up. But it takes professionalism. That's why I say there should be education. This conversation that we're having, this is something the job should discuss. That, hey, it could happen. A man and a woman are working in a car every day. They spend more time with each other than anyone else, and they start to have an intimate relationship. They should be professional and smart enough to say, hey, we're engaged in a relationship right now. We need to split up, keep it a healthy environment. So God forbid this relationship doesn't work out, that everyone else doesn't pay for it, and to protect each other. And so I think we're saying the same things, and that's why education is important. To say, hey, if you're a captain and you're working in a place and with a sergeant, whatever dynamics, whoever the woman or man is, doesn't matter. If you engage in a relationship and you have direct power over that person, then that relationship, you need to let someone know, and you need to work in different places. Should you be gearing like, I'm going to find myself a cop? No. But that's why I was saying earlier that these relationships are not necessarily about sex. Maybe you have two cops who are working together, maybe sometimes, but ultimately when it comes to leadership, it's about power. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that when you make when you're a sergeant and you make the 4 foot tall rookie cop who just got out of the academy like yesterday, your driver, I see all I'm seeing is you're trying to get into a relationship with her. I mean, there's no, I've seen some I've seen some bosses do that in like the busiest commands, and you got a 4 foot tall female rookie as your driver, you know. So what else are we supposed to think about from that, you know? And the other thing I'll say is that that's super. A lot of these dudes who didn't know how to talk to women when they were younger, and now they're let's say they're in their 30s, they become a boss. It's now that supervisor subordinate dynamic makes it a whole lot easier for them to talk to women on the job, especially if they're the young rookie who just got out the academy and knows nothing about the job, you know. So I think it's why they do it. It's because they you know, these guys didn't know how to talk to women when they were younger, and now it's like it's easy. It's a whole lot easier when you're the boss and she has to listen to you for everything, and she doesn't know anything about the job, you know. So I think it's, you put yourself in that situation. I'm sorry, these things are gonna happen, whether fair or unfair. If you abide by the standards of the job, then you're not gonna be in a compromising situation one way or the other.
That's my point. Is like, just take the feather out of the hat. You know, someone said, "Oh, John, you don't think that women are predatory?" Yeah. Are you dumb enough to be the prey? Of course, women are predatory. Men are predatory. Humans are predatory. You're dumb enough to be the prey? Oh, yeah, I got good looking, bro. Like, no, you didn't do it. Yeah, she likes me. No, she doesn't. Like, you know, like, it's like, you know, dude, if like, she doesn't like you. You know, if I give you $30 million today and you start driving all fancy cars and you're going out to all these fancy places and all these women are hitting on you, they don't like you, bro. They want your money. They're predatory. They're coming after you. Are you dumb enough to be the prey? Or you're going to stay by the woman who loved you and you have kids with and who was with you when you had nothing? You know, and that's kind of what that's my whole point. It's like, listen, do some of these things work out? Rob Lukash is saying it's possible they work out. Yeah, but it's not likely. Why put yourself in the situation? Don't get into a relationship with your subordinates. Don't get into a relationship with a person you're working closely. Don't have sex with them. That's what I mean, a relationship. Don't have sex with them. Don't hang out with them after work. I used to tell guys all the time, don't work with girls all the time because they're going to find you attractive. They're going to find you attractive. Whether they liked you or not when you started working with them, at some point, they're going to start to find you very attractive and they're going to start hitting on you and it's going to turn into a different relationship. And I mean, I've seen some partnerships work out where that hasn't happened, but not many. I've seen a lot of them where they went bad. I've seen most of them when they went bad. I've seen some where they winded up never just having a friendship type relationship. But a lot of times that wasn't the case, especially when it becomes to supervisor and subordinate. When it's exactly what Marlon's saying, you know, you have the 4 foot tall rookie driving you. Why is she driving you, dude? Like, don't you like, I always took the most experienced guy to drive me because I need help on the scenes of whatever's happening. I need people that understand what's going on, are going to miss where I messed up. Oh, we got to do this. We got to do this. Hey, boss, you got to do this. Hey, boss, you forgot to do that. Oh, hey, boss, I got this, and this. He knows exactly what I need, or she, and she's trying to help me. But I'm not. But again, I kept myself out of those situations. That's all I'm saying to you is listen. Is it a hostile work environment for women in the NYPD? It absolutely is. But a lot of guys in the NYPD are suckers at the same time, and they put themselves in bad situations, and then boom, they're surprised when it all goes downhill. I'm sorry, dude. Like, whether it was consensual or not, this girl has naked photos of you. You're screwed, bro. You messed up. It's over. Oh, yeah, but she liked it. She asked me for it. Okay. Well, she erased those texts, you know? And nobody cares anymore. Like, no one cares because they look at you like you're the predator because what's the rule? It can't be consensual.
Yeah. Just get yourself in the game, you know? I mean, what are you there for? You know? You're not there to, I'm sorry, but you're not there to socialize and like pick up women. I mean, if you're going out with a 4 foot tall rookie, you're telling me that your head isn't in the game hit. Because if you're, I'm sorry, but if your head is really in the game and you're the boss, you got to realize that you're the boss. So you're probably going to be going to you're the guy who's going when your cops are calling for, especially when your cops are calling for help, and that the situations you're going to be in. I mean, that what you're doing tells me that your head isn't entirely in the game here. Okay. And you're not thinking with the head you're supposed to be.
Special Hagen says here, let me read this comment. It's a good comment. Lots of these situations are transactional. Money for sex, promotions for sex. You withhold, you get pushed out and maligned. Yeah, that's why we're saying it's a hostile environment. That's why there needs to be measures in place to prevent these things, to handle them properly while they're being investigated, and how to learn from it and move forward. But with weak leadership, we're not going to see any changes. And that's why I mentioned John Scola earlier. And that's really ultimately the root of the problem also with the NYPD is there's never an overhaul to fix the root of the problems. They just put a Band-Aid and pay lawsuits. And then we keep continuing on, and these things have a cycle of happening over and over. Is it a hostile work environment for women? Sure. I had plenty of cops working for me that, especially at domestic violence, they have a lot of women working. They were very attractive, and I saw, the way other police officers and supervisors would say certain things, or try to take them on their details. And I would say, listen, if you're taking them on your detail because you think they're a good cop, great. But if you're trying to hook up with her, that's not a reason to put her in your detail, So I agree, and there's plenty of hostile work environment stuff, and again, I don't think it's about sex. Maybe that's what initiates it, is that sexual attraction, but it's about power. For Madry, is that really about sex? Maybe yes. That feeds. I think the sex is like it's almost like food. That's what feeds the ego. But it feeds the ego because it feeds the power. If Madry was just a police officer, would he be able to pull this off and get all the women that he had access to? No, because he has that power. So it feeds that ego, and that ego is part of that power dynamic. And that's why I said it's not really a relationship. Him at his rank, a chief of department that has the ability to put his hands into everything. According to him, he doesn't sign slips, so he has no idea about overtime. But the chief of department that's supposed to know everything can't have a relationship with a lieutenant. It just can't, because there's too much room there between lieutenant and chief of department. He has so much power over her. So when it comes to those dynamics, yeah, he had the ability to possibly push her out, and he did. He had the ability to turn the whole thing on her, right? He tried to oust her when the investigation started. She just came back firing away, and she actually stood up. But yeah, it was. I just think that's where it comes down to. It's that power, and when you give power to weak leadership, this is a byproduct.
Totally. That's it. I got really nothing else to say on this subject. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get off this? I just got to say, again, if you let yourself be prey, don't cry when you get eaten. It is what it is. I'm not going to feel bad for you, because you really got to take the feather out of the hat. You don't want to get DWI'd? Don't drink and drive, right? You don't want to get jammed up? You don't want sexual allegations against you? Don't sleep with your subordinates. Don't grab them by their hair bun. Don't smack their ass. Don't send them texts that you're horny and this, that, and the other thing. You're an idiot if you do. I'm sorry. Whether she was asking for it or not. And someone asked, what about fat girls? Hey, listen, I like thick girls, especially in the wintertime, but any female that I was attracted to, I stay far away from till today, and I'm not on the job anymore.
Yeah. I just want to say, we've been saying sexually attractive women, but yeah, I gotta laugh at that. All right, let's move on, because that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Eric doesn't want to get himself in trouble in this podcast,
Yeah, I don't want to say something mean here.
That standard for cop hot is very, very questionable.
I mean, right? You have seen. I've seen some women. I don't want to be mean. Get on the police department where, they had a face only a mother could love, and a lot of guys were trying to get with her, and you're like, I see in the military too. It's not, not a lot of women in the Marine Corps, but there's plenty of women. And, I used to say, We used to call it desert goggles. You know, when you're out in the desert, everybody looks good. You know, so, it is a moment of opportunity for some. Anyway.
But dude, that's the thing with the guys too. It's like, dude, look in the mirror. Like, she don't like you, bro. Like, the Marjorie, like, nobody liked you, dude. Like, you're overweight. You're not good looking. You probably have a body odor about you, like under those ruffles. Like, they don't like you, dude.
You stumbling around.
Yeah, you wobble when you walk. You're like, they don't like you, bro. You know.
Yeah.
But don't you agree though? Like, I think one thing that we learned out of everything is the NYPD doesn't do anything to fix the problem. Like, okay, we got a problem. They don't do anything to fix it. Just let it keep happening. We'll just keep paying. But they're not fixing the problem. That's saying, all right, what do we do to prevent it? What do we do to investigate it? How do we handle it? Zero. Selective Affairs Bureau.
Yeah, no standard. That's 100% legit. So again, I wouldn't. I mean, not that I would tell my son to go work for the NYPD, but it would be different reasonings. I don't want anyone that I care about, my nieces, my daughters, any female of the female persuasion at all, anywhere around NYPD, because I do think it's a predatory environment. 100%. You know. Oh, and by the way, for the little pretty rookies that the sergeant's picking you, he's not picking you because he thinks you're a good cop. He's not. You should be smarter too. Just be like, I'd rather work with whoever, boss. Thanks. You know.
Yeah. Wait, you're saying she has one day on the street, she's not a good cop?
No. And just because you're in special victims with 2 years on the jobs doesn't mean that you're a good cop either. You know. I look at a lot of those special victims and go,
Yeah. 6 months on.
Wow. Weird.
Yeah. And to your point, Eric, I mean, it's one thing to be in a desert, but I mean, you're in like, we're talking cops who are in Manhattan, downtown Brooklyn, the 90 for God's sake. You know, I mean, seriously, how terrible are you at I mean, you're in the 90. I mean, all you got to do is get a nice, clean your uniform. Okay, get in shape and walk outside the door, walk outside the precinct, for God's sake. Go. You're in the 90. So
that's another thing, dude. I don't even in uniform. That's another thing. I don't take those numbers either. Don't be a sucker.
Yeah,
there's a lot of predators out there, bro.
That's true.
There's a lot of predators out there. I'm telling you, you have to be afraid of women. You have to. What do I always say? You're a celebrity, hopefully with the money, without the muscle. You mess up, you're front cover of the paper. Take your uniform off. You want to meet girls? Go out. Go to lounges. You're in Manhattan. Go to the meatpacking district. You're in the capital of the world, bro.
It's true.
What are you doing?
It's true.
Figure it out. There's
Very
somebody
true.
for everybody. There's people that like everything. There's all these weird clubs in Manhattan. Figure it out. Go find out. Google a little. Tell everybody you're a professional dog walker to the stars when you get there. Nobody needs to know what you do. Or tell them you're a fireman, you know.
Oh, those dog walkers make pretty good money, actually. That's a good job. You know, I just, before we go on, I just got to say, though, I remember, you know, in the Lower East Side, I remember in plainclothes, I met a girl, beautiful girl. She had 2 dogs. And I'll never forget, my lieutenant at the time told me, don't date a girl with 2 dogs. I don't actually remember. I don't know why I said that, but
you didn't ask why?
I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, all right.
Now I have to think about this. You know why? All right. Let's move on. Let's do it. All right. You guys are all a bunch of predators. You know. All right. So this comes out yesterday. So Pat Gordon again, head of the Guardians, like we've been saying, there's a little coup happening inside of One Police Plaza. So he writes this in a thread. Greetings, Guardian Association. We have a New York Times reporter working on the hiring process story for us. So he's sitting there telling you that he's orchestrating this entire coup. He should have wrote at the behest of John Shell and Kaz Daughtry, but he didn't get that far. And he said she would like to speak to anyone willing, either on or off the record, regarding hiring practice and things/incidents people have experienced during the hiring process. Please feel free to reach out to her if there's any information you have that you believe contributed to an unfair hiring process. Please note, you can feel free to offer information without your name being mentioned. Attaches her contact, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, right, just looking at this, you're like, okay, so everything we've been saying is highly accurate. Pat Gordon is positioning himself as a politician in the NYPD. Why he is still in the liaison office for the police commissioner is beyond me. Because he would have been booted so fast, it wouldn't even be funny. I'd send him to patrol to actually do the job for a little while so you can see what it is for that happens day in and day out in the NYPD and the department that pays him. So he puts this out, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, why would you endanger any of your members like that? What do you guys think about that? Like, do you think it's smart to tell cops to go out, hey, I'm trying to run a smear campaign against the NYPD and paint them as a systemically racist organization? You know, they're known to retaliate against people, but hey, why don't you give your name to this reporter and give them about all your experience that you think is possibly this? What could go wrong here? Would you ever tell any of your subordinates, any of your peers, any of your supervisor? Would you give advice to anybody on the job to, hey, you should speak to this reporter?
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, a lot of these fraternal organizations are becoming really too big for their britches over there. You know, yeah, a lot of these guys are starting. I'm starting to wonder who are the union bosses anymore. You know, I mean, that's pretty ballsy for a fraternal organization, no? I mean, you at least the unions have union protection, and you know, there's certain. You know, they have a certain role to play, but a fraternal organization now, I mean, but like we said, we've been saying the last couple of weeks, it's clearly it's becoming really obvious that Patrick Gordon is running that coup against Jessica Tisch, you know, and this is yet another example of him, you know, trying to set things up, you know. So if I were you, Jessica, I would expect there to be at some point during the next coming weeks, I'd expect Patrick Gordon to either hold some press conference or to be doing some interview on the news about with his nonsense again about race, you know, and like we said before, like when you're accustomed to a certain entitlement, you know, you're accustomed to getting access to the leadership of 1PP and to you're to feeling entitled to certain things, and that those are taken away. It seems like, you know, it seems like racism to Patrick Gordon, and it's not, okay. And again, he doesn't care about you black cops. He doesn't, okay. This is to protect his access and to protect the chiefs that gave him access, which are now on their way out because of in no small part because of their own misdeeds on the job, to embarrass the job and actually make the job harder for you, okay? Because when these chiefs do these things and the public sees it, they're associated with every cop on the job, not just that individual chief. They think all the cops below that chief are doing the same behavior and are doing the same nonsense, okay? So again, he's out to protect that entrenched cronyism class that we talked about, and not to help you or not to help the job.
Well, I say that that Patrick Gordon doesn't really care about black cops. This whole thing is about black ops, and that's what, you know. This is a black ops operation by Patrick Gordon. He doesn't care. He knows. Deep down, that guy knows it's not racist, because if you really thought this NYPD, this organization was so racist, you'd still be there. You'd still be there. Would you stand up and just say, like, this racism is going on for years, and say what that racism is? Because Patrick Gordon's not saying that he's been, he hasn't said anything's racist towards him. He's just saying that the guys aren't getting promoted, because exactly what you've been saying, Marlon, you've been spot on. He wants the keys. He wants access. And he's going to use stupid cops. I say I'm not insulting every cop, but if anyone gets behind him and calls the media, you're a stupid cop, because he's putting you in a very bad position. He's making it very vulnerable for you to reach out to the media and start complaining about the job, and you're going to be some type of quasi whistleblower. But meanwhile, look at what's going on at the upper echelon. You have to ask yourself, this guy, first of all, you're not supposed to go to the media anyway. as I remember, there is department policy for you. You're not supposed to go to the media. You're supposed to speak to DCPI. I remember in 2006, I had saved a kid. I was in the 120 police, and numerous reporters had came to talk to me. And the commanding officer at the time said, no, let them speak to DCPI. Don't talk to them. And he told me, listen, you got to get out of here. We'll send the reporters out here. They didn't want me to speak to reporters back then. And now, even so, social media is much more of a factor. Yes, the problem is we have unprofessional police department. We have Kaz Daughtry doing content creation every day. You got John Shell, who's acting like a jackass, after having a good night out on social media. So now I guess Patrick Gordon thinks it's okay to go speak to the media, but don't do it. Don't be the dummy of the day by actually listening to Patrick Gordon and going out to speak to the media. Don't do it. Ask yourself, what's really going on at the upper echelon? Wait a minute. One guy is blocking out the FFA. One guy is involved in a potential quid pro quo allegations. You have another guy who's given his brother access to a security detail. Ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is it really anti-black, or is it do we have a potential corruption problem? But you know the answer. You just want keys and you want the access. If this was all white lieutenants right now, I'm sorry, white upper echelon, would he have a problem with it? Yes. If he had keys to it, he doesn't care if they're white or black. It's about the access. If it was all white upper echelon and he had full access, he'd find another way. Maybe he wouldn't say it's racist, but he'd find another way, another cause to support him.
The QCB says it here. He stole what I was going to talk about. It's like, he says, Gordon was quick to give a statement when Faison was shit-canned. What's his stance about the detective being harassed, allegedly? I mean, what's his stance about any of the black women who've been who have hard criminal evidence that they were either sexually harassed or mistreated on the job, and then when they whistle blew, they were retaliated against? What's his stance on any of that? I haven't heard anything. I didn't hear one thing about any of the black cops that were transferred for over the body cameras that were the transfers were actually rescinded on Friday night. People are giving credit to the SBA. I don't know why, because the SBA told you when you called, they said needs a department, bruh. So it had nothing to do with the SBA. So for those of you that aren't paying attention, you should pay attention to why that actually happened. But that's besides the point. Where was he on that? And 100%, if you're going to talk about department business to the media, you need permission of DCPI. And if you don't, automatic charges inspect. Automatic. So anybody advising you to do so, it's not smart. Even doing so anonymously, it's not smart. You know how many active guys asked to come on here? And we're like, nah, you're not coming on here, bro. You want to go get permission from DCPI. You're not coming on here. All different ranks. Now union representatives, different. They're allowed to speak to the media when it relates to union business. Patrick Gordon, as the president of fraternal organization, different. He's allowed to talk about that. You are not. Right? He has that shield of blanket of protection. You do not. So what's department business? Anything they want it to be. Anything related to the NYPD, whether it's hiring, whether it's sexual misconduct, whether it's workplace relationships, whatever the hell it is, off-duty employment, whatever it is, falls under that blanket of department business. 100% terrible advice. I don't agree with you taking that. If you do so anonymously. Do not say, no, I'm doing this anonymously. I don't want to disclose. If you feel that there is an issue in the hiring practice and you feel that, in fact, the hiring practice is discriminatory and racist, then do so anonymously. I totally disagree with you. I think that it is discriminatory. I just don't think it's discriminatory black and brown candidates. We had the former deputy commissioner of equity and inclusion on a podcast who said that she was looking for end around to make the test easier to get more black and brown candidates. So, I mean, that doesn't sound racist to me.
Hey, John. There was a comment up there by Julianne Stapleton. She's actually a captain on the job, and I think she's in charge of Noble. Yeah, I think she's a president of the NY Noble chapter.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
she
it
says,
was Perry. But yeah, read it.
is it? Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it is Perry now. It says from till January 2025 she was. But she says, I don't disagree with you all. Just curious about the role that attractive or short women play in the department, if men should avoid working with them. At the end of the day, everyone needs to have more self-control. Well, yeah, that's what we're saying. We're talking about self-control. And to that point, I think I'm sorry, not sorry. You should avoid working with people that can't do the job. Okay. I mean, I think it's fine if I'm in an enforcement role, right? I'm in conditions, I'm on the street, I'm looking today. Okay. I'm looking. That means I'm going to be going in the worst parts of the precinct. I'm looking to make a collar. I'm looking to take enforcement action. I'm sorry, I need a partner who's going to be who when stuff goes down, that partner is going to be in. They're going to have their head in the game too, and they're going to be capable of of that enforcement, of supporting me in that enforcement. Okay, I don't need a partner who I'm going to have to worry about their safety while I'm getting shot at. That's why you need capable people. So what we're saying is not just for that you shouldn't work with attractive women, or what I'm saying is that not that you shouldn't work with attractive women or short women, but you have to work with people who are capable. And if that the problem is I think a lot of attractive women have on the job are accustomed to other cops doing stuff for them, or other supervisors doing stuff for them. How many times I've seen supervisors doing things for a lot of these attractive women that they would never do for you. They would never do for you, but they're gonna help voucher all that crap for the female cop. But when you got that DB with a trunk full of crap, they're gonna be out, at the end of the tour, and you're gonna be there for the next 15, 16 hours. Okay, so my point is that you need to have people that are capable. You're going to work with people that are capable of doing the job, because when I'm on the job, my head is in the game, and I'm looking to take enforcement action. I'm not there to like pick you up or go on a date, so that's my point. And since you're here, it'd be nice if you would answer like John's question, since you are a former representative of Noble, both Noble and the Guardians have been very silent on what's happened to a lot of black cops. Like in my case, in certainly in the case of Detective Walls here, you've had the case of Captain Gabby Walls. You've had the lieutenant. So since you're here, I would love to hear what Noble has to say about that.
Rob Lucash finds a filtered family. He's spot on right here. Gordon should be the voice for his fraternal leadership. Hold on, let me get to the rest of it. Gordon should be the voice for his fraternal organization, asking members to call the reported without approval from DCPI. Puts his members at risk. That's not good leadership. Exactly that. When you're the president of a fraternal organization, you're in a position of leadership. And it just shows another crony by Eric Adams, Patrick Gordon, failed leadership. You're advising your members to call the media. You're putting them in vulnerable positions to potentially receive severe discipline from the NYPD. There shouldn't be any discipline right now because you have John Shell unprofessional on social media. But the policy is that right now. And of course, if they're from general population, the arm of the job is going to fall on them from the Selective Affairs Bureau. But you're the voice. You should if you want, speak to your people, find out what their concerns are. And then if you're going to reach out to the media, you could do that as the president of the NYPD Guardians to talk about NYPD business. But let's be honest. I don't see any issues with racism at the top or bigotry towards black upper echelon. If there's any bigotry or discrimination, it's towards white alpha males in potential positions of leadership as we speak. Other than John Shell, because John Shell is an Eric Adams crony. Patrick Gordon clearly doesn't care about his brothers and sisters because he only cares about access. And he should be condemning the appearance of impropriety, what's happened right now, with numerous black leadership at the top of the upper echelon that has been a failure because of the connection to Eric Adams. You should be upset because it's a blight and it's a stain, excuse me, and it's bad for the potential black leadership that's moving up in the NYPD right now. Those black law enforcement professionals that are people of integrity and people of morality that want to move up in the NYPD who can't right now. They can't move up if they're not a loyalist to Eric Adams. So the quality black leadership that we can have right now can't make it in the upper echelon of the police department. Only if they're loyalists to Eric Adams. That's where he should be insulted by. But he's not standing up because it's only about what we said, Marlon, access.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rob. It's 100% accurate. I mean, he should be the voice. He's out in front. He's the politician. You have that protection. You're allowed to say whatever you want to say, whether I agree with him or not. That's besides the point, right? Like, it doesn't matter. He's entitled to his opinion. He's entitled to voice what he wants to for his members, but to put your members in a bad situation, I think, just shows his inexperience and his lack of care for department rules and policy, because obviously he doesn't think it applies. And just to go back on Juliana's statement, I never said don't work with short women or attractive women. I said take the feather out of your hat. For me personally, I am not going to work with a attractive female who's flirting with me. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself in that situation day in and day out. I'm not. I'm going to avoid that situation. You know what I mean? Same way as if there's an attractive woman texting me right now, asking me to go out to dinner because they want to discuss business or whatever they want to talk about. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting myself in that situation. And so that's what I'm saying. Have self-control. It's unrealistic for someone to believe they have so much self-control that they're going to be around a female or a male of the opposite sex who they're attracted to for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that person's also attracted to you, and something's not going to happen. It's 100% going to. What I was saying is take it out of your hat, but I totally agree. People need to have more self-control. And again, where is Pat Gordon on any of these situations? Where's Pat Gordon for the black detective who right now is being told that she needs to give back a year of time for a chief who said she could stay home and she could work from home and she could do overtime from home? Why is that okay? Again, regardless how you feel about Epps' allegations, whether you feel Marjorie forced himself on her or didn't, she's being told to give back over $100,000 in overtime payment, right? That a supervisor, an NYPD supervisor, approved. He approved it, checked off. Why? At the behest of Chief Jeff Marjorie, right? So they were told she got paid. It went through the proper channels. It was audited by the NYPD First Step. I don't hear him. Pat. And you got any statement on that? You got any statement, Pat? No? Okay.
That was a hell of an audit.
Yeah.
That statement that Pat Gordon has circulating around the job, I think he actually put out 2 this weekend. But one of those, he talks about how there's some campaign to separate like black officers from the executives. And Pat, that campaign is by your friends, the cronies. Okay. All right. And you conveniently are not talking about the fact that their victims are also black. Okay. So which is not too dissimilar to him now asking, members to go to the media. You're once again putting yourself ahead of them. Okay, because when they get in trouble, are you going to help them out here? Okay, you're asking them to go in front of the camera for what? To help you to help your long-term your long-term political aspirations here. So what we're seeing here is not too dissimilar than the Chiefs putting their own self-interest ahead of those cops. Oh, seems like we have another statement from her. I'm no longer president.
I think she made a good comment here. This is a fair comment. She now says, Julianne Stapleton, professional statement. She says, I can't speak on behalf of Noble because I am no longer president. Now, that part I have a problem with. Yeah, you're no longer president, but you could speak about the mission of what Noble was before and what you're seeing now from Noble and Guardians. I do think you could speak on that because what Patrick Gordon is doing right now is complete embarrassment and it's complete hypocrisy. She further says, I will say as an individual that I want people held accountable equitably, regardless of race, for bad behavior. Again, it goes back to what we say. There's different tiers in this police department. Nothing's equitable. I also think that all these scandals undermine the great work that men and women are doing every day. Yeah. I'm all about standing up for every hardworking person on this job. I don't always agree with you all, but you all have some interesting content, and I enjoy tuning in from time to time. Thanks for the show. Yeah, we appreciate it. Listen, I agree. This should be equitable. It should be a level playing field. It should be consequences should be the same, but it's not. There's three tiers. You have the upper echelon. You have those who get the benefits by nepotism, cronyism, and then you have general population. I mean, we had a lieutenant that his life was turned upside down because a female gave him a lap dance as a joke at a party. And yet we had Jeffrey Madry retire into bliss, and then Epps has to give back almost $200,000 overtime. And then he had someone fired because he said he's not the one that signed it. And we just let him go out into bliss. So, yes, I understand you're no longer the president, but you could talk about what went on. You could talk about what you've seen, how Noble and the Guardians tried to paint this podcast as racist for actually giving our critique. Those things you can talk about. But other than that, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with her. Two different organizations though. Noble is different from Pat's organization. Pat's the Guardians, so they're two different things. So, but yeah, I mean, just as an individual, I mean, I agree with you, you know, and listen, you know, everyone always prefaces every time I meet someone or anytime anyone comes on here. Oh, I don't always agree with you guys. We hope you don't. Like, I mean, like, that's normal. Like, we're all humans. Like, it's fine that we're just giving our opinions here. These are our opinions. We're not going to be right all the time. We're not. And like, you've seen sometimes our opinions shift. You know what I mean? You know what? We said this, we were wrong. You know, oh, I said this, but I didn't know that. And I think this now, you know? So, but Samara Cohen's like pointing out, I think, about Quatisha Epps, where she says LeBoy from SVU admitted to signing off his own OT slips. I don't know that off the top of my head. The process isn't perfect. And if you stole money, then you should give it back. Signing your own overtime slips is a lot different than a chief signing your overtime slips. You had approved overtime slips, right? They were approved. Now, if your overtime was from home and people thought you were at work, that's a different story. But if you were approved to be home and the chief knew you were home and he signed your overtime slips, it's approved. End of story. I'm not even going to argue that fact. That's authorized overtime. That's and so why should she have to pay it back? Do I agree that she should have been allowed to do it? No, but I didn't sign those overtime slips. I didn't tell her she could work from home. Jeffrey Madry did.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna take a different stance on what she said. You know, I never want to hear about racism or unfairness from these groups again. I never want to hear it. You have for years, decades even, a lot of these groups talked about racism and unfairness and this, and the biggest fight in our lifetimes happened. And what did you do? You stayed silent. You remained silent. You said nothing, and you continue to say nothing because you're all cowards. Okay, you're all cowards. Okay, so I never want to hear about racism again. Okay. Because the biggest civil rights issue, you said nothing, okay? And it's not just And it's not just the black cops, okay? Black cops like me, okay? There are tons of other cops, okay? Tons of other cops who have been wrong these last couple of years, and you remain silent. And yet, when it benefits your own self-interest, you're gonna come out and scream racism at the top of your lungs, okay? Please, you guys, I wouldn't. If I get back on the job, I'll never be associated with any one of your organizations, because to me, you revealed yourselves to be interested in only the opportunities that saying the magic word, okay, the magic R word that gets you to that gets your weight, okay, and it pushes you further in your political aspirations or your individual self-interest. Okay, you say the magic word, and people out of majority out of white guilt, okay, fall in line. And that's all it is. Okay, it's to get your weight. It's not to help anybody, because again, you stayed silent when the biggest civil rights issue of our lifetime happened, and you still remain silent.
I just want to say, Veronica Electron, drop the mic. That is the best comment I've ever seen, by the way. That is the best comment ever. I'm only listening to this podcast until John Shell gets his own show on WABC radio. Drop the mic. That is hilarious. That is awesome. I know, John.
Us too.
Yeah, listen.
We'll have to move the times.
Yeah. John Shell's going to be on. Woo! I can't wait. You think he's going to do it right after the Salty Dog? That's what he should do. It'll probably be the funniest. But listen, the bottom line is, I think what Patrick Gordon is doing is divisive. I think he's trying to divide and conquer, and he's weaponizing race to get what he wants. And to get what he wants is the access that he had before. He wants to have the same access, and he's losing it. But it's a shame that he utilizes race and bigotry. It's disgusting. And this is why, again, I say every chief in an active role is compromised. Someone has to say this is wrong. I get it. You're the president of the Guardian Association, but what you're saying right now, this is absolutely unprofessional. It's wrong. It's a terrible look for you to bring up racism. It's hate speech. And according to the disciplinary matrix, hate speech is grounds for termination, because this is divisive. It's disgusting what he's doing, utilizing and weaponizing race. And clearly, it's not race. We don't have an image problem. We have a hands of the cookie jar problem. Everyone's, we got crumbs. People are trying to get money. They're trying to get girls. They're trying to get access. They're trying to abuse their authority. Everyone's got their hand in the cookie jar. And what's the common denominator? Not race. What's the common denominator? Eric Adams. Maybe instead of having your cops get out there and talk to the media, maybe you have them get out there, and if they live in New York City, vote. Vote for someone that's not causing the problem. Vote for someone other than Eric Adams. Hey, listen, you guys, you want changes? Get out there and vote. That's what you should be telling them. Not call the media. But they probably don't even live in New York City.
Yeah, and just to go back on what Marlon said, I mean, Marlon, honestly, I think you might drop on that one too, because it's so true. Where the hell were Noble and the Guardians? I think I've done way more, and I don't even think, I know that I've done way more for Black officers who were affected by the COVID mandate than both of those organizations combined, and then multiply it by about 3,000. So, and that is disgraceful. It's a civil rights issue. It's a religious freedom issue. It's honestly an issue that weaponizes the elites against people who are impoverished, people who are poor, who are middle class, who are working class. And really, the COVID mandate disproportionately affected the poor and the middle class in New York City, disproportionately affected people of color in New York City. And nobody talks about it. Pat Gordon, I don't know where he is. He never said anything. He didn't say a word. He was running around with his man boobs, not saying anything, talking about this is racist, that's racist, this is racist. But he never said anything about the atrocities that were happening. And, I did an interview recently and I was speaking with somebody, and they were asking me about why I left the police department, right? And I was like, one thing that never really gets highlighted because no one asked me to elaborate on it is the fact of how hard it was for me being a supervisor, right? Because I had my own personal where I had natural provable antibodies, and there was absolutely no data or no historical medical data on why I needed to take this, because even the job was saying I need to take the shot to put antibodies in my body. And I would say, but I have them. Yeah, but those might not last. And I said, well, what about the ones that you're giving me? Will those last? Oh, we don't know. If you don't do this, we're doing it in 7 days. And I said, and that's my own personal issue. But bigger than that, I was in charge. I think I was in charge of about 800 people as a lieutenant. About 300 of them were minority women, single mothers, first job in the city. They were janitors for the NYPD. They would do routine cleanings for COVID. First good job, some of these people had. And they their backs were put up against the wall. Now, there were other people, there were detectives, there were sergeants, there were cops, there were other types of civilian employees. Their backs were also put up against the wall. If you want your paycheck, you're going to put this in your body. But I'm like sitting there, if you remember the timing when it was when Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio were taking paintbrushes and painting Black Lives Matter right in front of Trump Tower, right? If people don't remember that, right on 5th Avenue, about 53rd or 55th. I forget exactly where. I can't remember the exact block. But right there, up in the 50s on 5th Avenue, right? And they're painting Black Lives Matter. And honestly, I was so enraged and infuriated by all of the Black women that were coming in here. Lou, I don't want to put this in my body. Lou, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family. Lou, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is my first job. I live in the projects. I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to make a better life for my kid. I don't want to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do, with tears in their eyes. And I'm like, I'm enraged. I'm telling my bosses, are we men? You want me to tell these women, you better do this to work? I'm like, what am I, Harvey Weinstein? Like, I'm not doing it. Like, this is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. And they weaponize this tactic, particularly against the poor and the middle class, particularly against people of color. And those two organizations said nothing. So you're 100% right, Marlon. Shame on all of you.
Yeah. When I was growing up, these groups were they would tell you about what happened during the civil rights movement, when government would spy and infiltrate and try to basically break up these organizations or delegitimize them, right? They were anti-government, okay? And something happened around when we hit the 2020s, okay? That now all these organizations now are like, before it was don't trust the government. Now it's like, how dare you speak up against this? So I never want to hear it from any one of these organizations again. Okay, you failed at you had one job. Okay, one job, and you failed at it. Okay.
I mean, listen, you're absolutely right, dude. That was a statement of the day. You're absolutely right. Where were they to help out with the mandate? I mean, here you are. You're Black, and you've been terminated. And the only thing you did wrong was ask questions. And yet, we have people with fake vaccine cards who have kept their jobs. Do I feel bad for them? Yeah, but I feel far more empathetic and sympathetic towards you, Marlon, and people like you that got terminated because the only thing you did wrong was stand on morality and integrity. Because if you would have lied, you'd still be an NYPD employee. You'd probably be on your way to being a first-grade detective. If you would have sacrificed your integrity or morality, you'd still be in employment. And where was Noble and the Guardians at that point to speak out? Where were they to say, hey, we have Black law enforcement officers that are put in a position right now to make a decision that is going to push them out? Never heard a word. And you're right, Marlon. The ultimate goal in life should be the least amount of government oversight is what you want in your life. The government is there to create a structure and a system, but it should not be there for reliance. And the same government that we say we should be wary of is the same government that we let take full control during the scandemic. So it's important how we move forward. What do we learn from the scandemic? We learn from the scandemic that we can't trust the media. The mainstream media lies to you. We learn from the scandemic that to move forward, we have to take full responsibility and we have to look out for each other. And what's most important is community and camaraderie. And that's why I say it's not the external pressures of the NYPD that cause people to the brink of mental health issues. It's what goes on internally. We say it all the time. People love the NYPD in death. They love the cops in death. But what about in life? Because Marlon, you're still living. John's still living. And no one stood up for you guys that you're in a position to say, do I want this vaccine mandate? Do I want this in my body? No one stood up. But God forbid, and let's be honest, let's say this, God forbid, one of you had lost your lives from getting that shot, then everyone would have said how great you guys are. Oh, what a shame. And that, unfortunately, is that what it takes? It takes you to take your last breath for the NYPD to actually care about you. So you know what? I'd rather be living and breathing, and they don't care. We found the care right here. We have a great community. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Eric.
No, and this is where people care, right?
No,
Sorry,
I was just.
Yeah. No, we all care right here. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was just gonna say, and it's not just about us, guys, because remember, we're not on the job now, but you guys who took the shot to keep your job are still on the job, and the quality of job life is just getting worse. Okay, so in a lot of ways, we got shafted, but you guys are still getting shafted. You get shafted every day when you go to work. Okay, so these organizations didn't speak up for us then, and they're not speaking up for you now. And as you're seeing from this latest sexual harassment incident, it's just it's just the incidents like this where you're getting where your concerns are being ignored are just happening daily. Okay, so it's not just about us, it's about you who are still working there right now and about the conditions there.
The vet says, let's be realistic. NYPD is imploding right now. If Marlon's to go back, he would be targeted. It's best he stay out of this corrupt mess. Listen, I don't disagree with you. 100% he'll be targeted, but he should be reinstated and compensated. That's and you know what? Bring him to at least his 20 years because it was absolutely wrong what happened to him. And again, who was this enforced by? It was implemented by the commie Bill de Blasio, but it was enforced by Eric Adams, which honestly makes me disgusted of Eric Adams. Everyone's like, oh, I don't understand why you don't like him. I'm like, he's funny. He's entertaining. I mean, his administration's really fun. They're good for content generation. Great for the podcast. Great for social media. I mean, are they good for the people in New York City? Absolutely not. Here you have a black guy who grew up poor, claims to be dyslexic, worked his way all up. It's a success story, right? And what does he do when he gets in office? He becomes an elitist. He pushes down the 1% or the elites. Really, I don't even want to say the 1%, but he pushes down the 1%'s mandates. And who does he push it down on? The poor, the middle class, the working class, the people he says he represents. So he doesn't represent anyone, and that's why I say he's a fraud. He forgot where he came from. He's a disgusting human, and I'll never forget it. And when people, when we talk about that, people are like, oh, you're supporting Mondani. I'm like, no, I'm not. You're a moron. I'm not supporting Mondani because I'm telling you that Eric Adams is the same type of individual. Like I said on this podcast, while the world's going insane that Zohran Mondani wants to put in city-owned grocery stores, you have them in New York City right now. What are you going nuts about? Why is the world collapsing now? While the world goes insane around Zohran Mondani's defund the police tweets, I showed you Eric Adams campaigning that he was defunding the police. And not only that he campaigned to do it, he actually did it. While the world's going insane that Zohran Mondani wants to get rid of the SRG and John Schell's on Fox News talking about how vital they are, Eric Adams is getting rid of them as we speak. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what's hard to grasp about that? What I've been saying since this election started is that anyone on that side should be a non-starter for you. Cuomo, Adams, or Zohran Mamdani. It should be a non-starter. I'm telling you, if the things that are happening right now in New York City, Zohran Mamdani has absolutely nothing to do with it. So if you like what's happening in New York City currently, vote for Eric Adams. If you want different change, you better get out of it. You better get out of that Democrat mindset that I'm a Democrat and I can only vote for Adams, Cuomo, or Mamdani because they're the only people that'll win. You know why they're the only people that you think they're going to win? Because those are the only people you're willing to vote for. The Democrats in New York are disgusting. Like, honestly, they disgust me. I'm so sick of these nonsensical walk away campaigns. I walked away from the Democratic Party. Oh, but I can't tell you who to vote for. You're pushing. You didn't walk away. You walked out of the Democratic Party and you're telling everyone, oh, stay with the Democratic Party because they're our best option when the polls tell you exactly different. You know, and honestly, it's disgusting to me. And that's why I think Eric Adams is disgusting. And I think these organizations are disgusting because they're full of crap. And like Marlon said, they don't represent you. They represent themselves. It's a grift to push them up politically, to push them up in their career. And I totally agree with you. And by the way, I'm not just honing in on the black organizations here. That also goes for the Holy Name Society. That also goes for Cops for Christ. That also goes for the Columbia Association. That also goes for the Emerald Society. That goes for Goal. That goes for every single one of you. You were all a bunch of silent cowards. We see you.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. You know, why do you continue paying for these organizations when they didn't come through for you when you needed it most?
You know, and I'll never forget, John. I think it's almost 3 years since we started podcasting together. In the infancy of, just starting before we went live, started the recordings and stuff. And we spoke back then, and we were talking about how silence is cowardice, and how silence. The coward is worse than the rapist and the thieves in the Bible. And it really is. Honestly, the more that we talk about it, the more that people are silent. And I realize they really are the cowards, honestly. And they're the ones that create the most problems because you have to ask yourself, why are people silent? What are they afraid of speaking out? That they might lose something, some small amenity? If I speak out, I might not get the next rank. If I speak out, I might not get the great detail I want. But if we don't speak out, you're not protecting others. And maybe you'll be a little uncomfortable for a period of time for speaking out, and maybe there'll be some small changes. But there are people that their lives are completely altered and affected. And if you don't speak out, their lives are changed forever. That's why I was so hard, and I'm still hard on Ronnie Harrison, because Ronnie Harrison was an IAB when Daniel Pantaleo was terminated from the police department. And now in retirement, on a podcast, Mike Alone, with Mic'd Up New Haven, admits that Daniel Pantaleo got a bum deal. But he never said that while Daniel Pantaleo was about to be terminated, while he was an IAB, while Ronnie Harrison had a direct look of what was going on in Staten Island. He never spoke up for him. And yes, I received a lot of opposition that if Rodney Harrison would have spoken up, it would have changed his career. And you might be right. You might be right. However, no one spoke up, and it changed Daniel Pantaleo's life forever. I think, unfortunately, that's where the strength comes in. Yes, if you speak up, you may face some discomfort, but you may be protecting someone else from losing their entire life. And that's why silence is cowardice. And that's why it's a major problem. And that's why every chief in this department right now who plays an active role is compromised, because your silence allows these things to fester and continue on. And until we have a coalition of chiefs getting together to speak out, nothing will change.
So this dude's getting a lot of flack. And the NYPD officers who support Zohran Mamdani, City and State did an interview with retired Lieutenant Shamshul Haq. I believe he was a longtime member of the Internal Affairs Bureau. I don't know if it was there his whole career, but whenever I heard his name, he was in a group. He was a lieutenant in Group 54, which is the unit that investigates force inside of the NYPD. So he was on stage with Zohran Mamdani immediately following the murder, of Officer Islam. And he's coming out and he's basically saying he's supporting Zohran Mamdani. And there's a lot of Muslim officers and there's a lot of active Muslim officers who were one times Adams cronies now supporting Zohran Mamdani. What do you think about? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I asked last week, like, if the Muslims that I know are very conservative, they and their family men, okay. And my question to him in supporting Zohan is, are the policies that Zohan, the policies that he's pushing, would they be beneficial to your family, to your kids' well-being, to the quality of life that they're getting, or are you just voting because Mamdani claims to be claims to be Muslim? Okay, when by all measures, he looks more secular, than actually religious. Okay. So my question is why exactly are you supporting Zohran? Okay. And the other question is, are you supporting Zohan for your own political self-interest? Yeah. And this is another example of a fraternal leader who doesn't necessarily have the interests of his fraternal members at heart. And I think he's looking out for his political self-interest and his opportunities. Okay.
Well, let's be honest. Let's talk about the framework here. Mamdani would be an ultimate failure for the police department, but so is Eric Adams. So what you're saying right now, if you support Mamdani and you're endorsing Mamdani, you're saying that Eric Adams' policies, that you're okay with them, and you've seen a good version of the NYPD, because with Mamdani, we get a mirror image of Eric Adams. Actually, if anything, Mamdani actually might be a little bit better because he hasn't been accused of any corruption at this point, not to our knowledge. And Eric Adams has been nothing but just a cloud of suspicion his entire political career. This goes back to what we said. We can compare it to Patrick Gordon. It's another person looking for their own self-interest, trying to get keys and access. We have to say to ourselves, does he possibly have a relationship with Mamdani? Does he get keys and access to something? What is in it for him? Are there benefits in it for him? Because it sure looks like it. And Marlon, you're absolutely right. It's about self-interest. Because in no way, shape, or form, just on a common sense level, Mamdani is not a good choice for the NYPD. It's not a good choice to endorse, and neither is Eric Adams. This goes back to what we're saying. We need people to cross over the party lines and go to the Republican side of things and look at Curtis Sliwa. But they're not looking. They only see one side, and they only see the Democratic side. This is about their personal interest. Again, common sense will tell you the only one for the NYPD right now is Curtis Sliwa. That's it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Marlon nailed it again. This is a self-interest move. Same as the unions endorsing Adams. Does nothing to help the NYPD officers. His endorsement of Zohran does nothing to help the Bangladeshi officers or the Muslim officers or anybody in the NYPD or public safety as a whole. And same's true for the unions endorsing Adams, so but why they do it? For self-serving, self-appointed interest. That's my opinion on it. I think that, I would welcome, if you're listening to this, I know he's interacted with a lot of our social media posts. You're welcome to come on the show and bring your viewpoint. But I see a lot of people going crazy over anything with Zohran, anything. But again, this is, in my opinion, this is just as hypocritical as what the NYPD unions did. Corruption's fine. We don't care about corruption. We don't care about the selling of promotions. We don't care about DEI. We don't care about all the failures of this administration. We only care about what we need. That's it. And that's, I agree with you guys. I think that's 100% what we're seeing. Last thing, I know we've been going a while. These latest podcasts, honestly, I'm like, I can't. Maybe it's me. I can't keep track of time, but I just feel like they've been flying by. So here's another video that just came out. Comes out from New York Scoop. I'm gonna play the. Let me play the video. Just get your thoughts on this. Is the volume up? Yeah. Let's see what happens here. So masked men approaches the dude on the phone with a gun, broad daylight, streets in New York City. I'll get you the exact location in a minute, but you see him clear as day. He put the gun, he loaded the chamber, he walked up, he's squaring off with the guy. Dude's being a little combative. Oh my goodness. So he just if you guys didn't notice, what he did is he just let a warning shot off in the air. This dude's crazy, bro. Somebody comes out to me with a gun. I'll be like, what size sneakers are you? I'm a 10. Do you want these? This dude is like, he's clearly unarmed and he's squaring off with this dude with a gun. So the dude shoots a warning shot. Watch this. This dude's crazy, bro. Wow. Broad daylight. Safest big city in America. Broad daylight, New York City. So that is, let me give you the exact location where that is. Hold on. Sorry.
Just Bay Ridge, huh?
East 21st Street and Avenue U. Yeah, 34-year-old man was robbed last week on Sunday at gunpoint in front of 2119 Avenue U. So Avenue U, you know, not a high crime neighborhood, you know, and broad daylight, masked men coming up robbing people for guns. So crazy. What do you guys think about this? You know, I watched the executive perspective, and I heard Ron Layson saying that incident couldn't have been avoided, and it's not due to low manpower, and he doesn't agree with me. And I was listening to it, and I was like, I'm not saying that 100% foolproof, but the lack of manpower is definitely a reason for this. And the fact that we're in a diminished police department makes the chances of things like this happening and that murder in New York City possible. So, I mean, if we're to say that low manpower and lack of resources isn't a result of that, then it's also not a result of this. And I think then it's a great case for defund the police, because what we're saying is that the cops don't affect crime rates. Cops cannot prevent crime from happening. And I totally 100% disagree with that take. I think that would they have had to been lucky to stop that shooting in Manhattan? Yeah, they would need a little luck, but we make our own luck because we're out there. And we're out there in force, and we're out there in number. And in a diminished police department in the middle of the day in New York City, you got a masked guy walking around robbing people at gunpoint and feeling comfortable enough to let a warning shot off. Feeling comfortable enough that shooting in Manhattan, all of this, in my opinion, direct result of low manpower in the NYPD.
Yeah, spot on, John. And one of the issues we talked about a couple weeks ago was that the manpower in the low crime precincts are being reassigned. They're being reassigned for summer all out. So they're being pushed into the more violent areas of the city. And I have to wonder, looking at this, how many guys have the 6-1 precinct where I believe this takes place? How many guys have they lost for the summer? Okay. Because I can tell you, my precinct has lost foot posts on one of the busiest streets in the precinct, and so this is also one of the busiest parts of that neighborhood, by the way, Avenue U. So you got to wonder how many cops have they lost that would have been walking a steady post there, or you'd have had at least one more patrol car, circling the area. You know, so now Last week, one of the commanding officers posted a picture of his roll call. Right now, I think you guys out there who are in these precincts, I know a lot of you are frustrated yourself about the manpower. You've got to be if there's only 3 patrol cars for that 3 sector cars on that platoon. Okay, so you guys have cell phones. Okay, and you have the power to affect change yourself. Okay, I think a lot of you, what you should be doing is if you got 3 sectors on roll call, you should be taking a picture of that. Okay, and get an anonymous account and post it on Twitter and let people know. You tweet it and put a hashtag for the community council on it, because a lot of community boards would be upset if they found out that you only have you don't have enough cars responding to jobs in that platoon. So I'm issuing that challenge to you guys out there to do it. And you know where we are too. If you find me on Twitter, you send it to me, I will definitely post it, because this stuff it pisses me off that there is not enough manpower. And we've said before, the city has 1 million more people in it now than it did in the early 90s, and yet the manpower is headed to early 90s levels. So it's not adequate, and you're getting more brazen perps out there because they know this themselves. Okay, this guy, he knew he had enough time to fire a warning shot in the air and still hang out there. Okay, and not fear that the cops were right around the corner. Okay, so this is a problem, and it's getting worse.
I think you both brought up awesome points. And to your points, I think much of police work is illusory. And what do I mean by that? Right? I talk about intrusive police work, but one of the major faults of the police department is not this administration. It's actually former Commissioner Dermot Shea for disbanding anti-crime. And that's something Eric Adams should have brought back, especially with him being a former police officer who rose to the rank of captain. He should have the knowledge that anti-crime is a major, major player in keeping crime down in New York City. And I believe it's the illusory factor that also contributes to a crime deterrent. And what is that illusory factor? If you have anti-crime units out doing intrusive police work, experienced police officers, and they're engaging potential suspects and perpetrators at a level to get illegal firearms off the street, or prevent shootings, or prevent robberies. Well, other potential prime suspects see that as well, and see that intrusive police work. And that in itself is a deterrent. And also seeing that police presence. John, you often say a cadence. Seeing that cadence is also the illusory factor that deters crime, because it gives people the illusion that the cops see everything. And then at any point, you'll be in a position where a cop may have an encounter as a suspect with a cop. And could that crime, so to Ron Lason's point, could that crime that we just witnessed on this video still happen with 41,000 police officers, rhetorically speaking? If we had anti-crime, yes, but it would be less likely, and especially that time of day and on the main drag of Avenue U, and see such a brazen perp that didn't even flee the scene, firing that warning shot and just gingerly taking off. So these are contributing factors to what we see of the outcome of what's going on. Is there luck in police work? Is there? Well, some say yes, but that luck is also driven by good policing structure, which is intrusive police work and having police officers out there. So I've said this numerous times, and I really believe this. And I used to tell my commanding officers this. If you chase shootings and you chase crime, you will have more crime. And that's what they're doing right now, which is an ineffective plan. So they displace police officers from various precincts, and they bring them. I don't agree with this whole all-out program, by the way. I never did. They bring them to other precincts that have a high propensity for crime, and now you just left holes in these other locations because we're chasing crime. And so now we left holes in places that are particularly not bound with crime. So now they see crime as well. So we displace crime and we move it around. I think that all out is completely ineffective. I think that it displaces from other locations, and all it does is curb crime in particular locations so they can manipulate the stats for crime sets, such as things like that. But it doesn't actually change crime in the city as a whole. Again, intrusive police work is the bedrock and foundation to safety. They removed anti-crime, and you can see there's not enough presence. And if you believe that the presence is not affecting it and intrusive police work isn't affecting it, John, I'm with you. Then we might as well defund the police, because that's what you're saying. You're saying that the police does not take an active role in keeping crime down. And sure enough, it does. We're seeing it right now. Could that active shooter situation have been stopped? Could it still have happened if we had anti-crime and we had 41,000 police officers? Could it still happen? Yes, but less likely. And there could have been numerous obstacles to prevent it, such as police officers out there writing summonses, police officers out there making observations. Another problem with having a low presence of police officers is not that you don't see them. The problem is they don't see you. So what do I mean by that? So you see this roll call here. There's only several police officers. And if those police officers are doing police work in a patrol car, and they're so busy because there's not enough police officers that they have to go from A to B and actually just drive there, they're not canvassing. They're not looking. They're not analyzing the area. They're just going through the motions. So not only do you not see them, but they don't see you.
Totally. Look at this roll call. First of all, so this comes out from the PBA. I just want you to realize that. Like the PBA posted this video, the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, who claim that they don't care about public safety in New York City, as per the former vice president of the NYPD. He said in a meeting, "We only care about your health, your welfare, and your safety." Doesn't appear you do to me. You had no problem posting a video of 4 cops going out on patrol. 4 cops in an NYPD precinct in New York City. You're going to tell me low manpower doesn't affect crime? And Eric, I agree with you with getting rid of anti-crime 100%, but that's a multiplier. That's a multiplier. Like, they're the force multiplier, anti-crime. Even if these 4 cops were the best 4 cops in that command, they were the most well-informed cops in that command. They knew case law, they knew stops, they knew procedure like this. They're unable to do anything in that command that day because all they're going to be doing is going from job to job to job to job. And more than likely, it's just going to be the sergeant and his operator driving around answering all the jobs about an hour into the job, about an hour into tour. So there'll be 1 car out there. They're going to be in backlog. When a call comes over for a man with a firearm, their response time is going to be through the roof. They're going to be leaving people at accident scenes. They're going to be leaving. It's going to take longer to get to emotionally disturbed people. This is a great. New York City is in grave danger right now. Look at this roll call. The PBA doesn't see an issue with this. I mean, I'm seeing numerous issues with this. And that's why I say, like, this is everything that's happening is a direct result. Like, here's that just to go back on that video again that came out from New York Scoop. I mean, here we have you think the suspect is stopping today? You think this was it? Like, we're never going to see this guy again? No, this dude got away. He's out there. He's out there. He's going to be walking around. Let's say those were the cops in the precinct, right? You should be taking note of this dude, what he's wearing, everywhere he is. This guy's going back within a few square miles of this exact incident, and he's going to continue robbing people. More than likely, he's going to be wearing the same clothes, and he's definitely going to be wearing the same sneakers. And you could see those sneakers. They're not very common sneakers. They're unique. They look like Air Force Jordan. If I had to say, they're Air Force Jordan 2s, black. They're weird colored sneakers. Not a lot of people are wearing these. These dropped a few years ago. This kid's still going to be wearing that. What hat was he wearing? I don't know. But let's say these kids had all that information at that roll call. We're sending them out. They have all that information. They're like, we're going to go out and get that guy. They're never getting that guy because they're just going to be from nonsense job to nonsense job to nonsense job to nonsense job. And they're never going to be able to do anything. We need cops, people. We need cops right this second.
Yeah, absolutely. Chief Blue Cash makes a good point in the comments. He says omnipresence deters crime, and that's what we're saying. Even if you have the rookie who just got out of the academy yesterday, and he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, you have two of those guys walking a foot post on Avenue U. Do you think that purpose is likely to do that? I guarantee you that purpose is going to have second thoughts about doing it there, because you don't know. Okay, I mean, these, first of all, these perps are cowards. Okay, so they like they like opportunity, and they like less effort. Okay, so if you have foot posts in that area, he might have second thoughts about committing his doing his dirt on that in that block. So that's the point that we're trying to make, that you need presence there, and you need cops, you need bodies. Okay, and the fact that the department right now is so short of manpower is a danger to the city. And remember, we have a city of what, 8 million people here. If you have just 30,000 cops out there, that's adequate to begin with. And we're already questioning whether it is actually 30,000. We have doubts about that it's even in the 30s right now. So
it goes back to what I said before, that illusory factor, right? If you have omnipresence, it's the illusory factor that the police officers are watching every move, and that you're going to be a suspect that's apprehended, right? Just as you said, if you have that rookie stand there that has no idea what police work entails, he's brand new, he still smells like cash sales from one police plaza, then it's the illusory factor, right? And that's why I say that cadence of patrol cars driving around, marked cars, that cadence, we used to say in the South Bronx, when the subjects see the black van, that could stop a shooting for the day, because that black van was symbolic of intrusive police work. You know what? If I'm out there potentially committing crime, I'm going to have an encounter with the police, and we're losing that illusory factor. And you can see it. We lost that illusory factor. That perp was a complete coward, which is why he's the one that has the gun. He's backing up. He just wanted to get some money from the guy, but he wasn't running off. He didn't look scared that he was going to be apprehended by the police. He looked more scared that he was actually going to have confrontation by his adversary that he was trying to rob. But he didn't look like that he was worried about the police, which is why he fired off the shot and took off kind of gingerly. But his worries were more from the adversary. So again, it goes back to the illusory factor. And how do you get that illusory factor? With presence. We need omnipresence. So, and that omnipresence is uniformed personnel and anti-crime. And we lost it. And that experience of police officers being out there, that's where we get the luck. Experienced police officers, if we had the right police officers, if we had enough police officers, if they saw an occupant disembark a double parked car on 52nd Street in Manhattan, that would be a red flag. Who is going to leave a double parked car unoccupied on 52nd Street? A normal person would be like, I can't leave it here unoccupied. I'm going to get towed, right? And there would be some engagement. And that's why I say intrusive police work. Good police officers would engage and say, hey, what's going on here? And as they approach, maybe they would have saw the man with the firearm. Some people are saying nothing could have stopped that. I don't agree with it. Something could have stopped it. And unfortunately, we didn't stop it because of all these factors. We don't have enough cops out there. We don't have the right cops out there. And we don't have the right plan. The plan by the NYPD now is failing. I've said a long time ago, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think All Out is absolutely a waste of money. I think it's, we take police officers one precinct to another in a location that they're unfamiliar with. They're not happy with you, and they just stand there as scarecrows. And it doesn't cause the illusory factor, because I spoke to numerous perpetrators I've debriefed, and they said they're aware that those police officers could care less and they're not paying attention. How do I know? Because we've had shootings right in front of the All Outs, right in front of All Out personnel, and they didn't even notice who were the perpetrators right in front of them numerous times.
Yeah, so Ron says, my point wasn't that low manpower doesn't affect crime and brazen acts like in Brooklyn. I was saying the chances of New York City shooting being stopped was next to nil. He got out of his car and walked in. Again, if we had a police force, we diminish those chances. If we had a police force, we increase those chances. It's next to nil when you have 4 guys turning out at a roll call that anyone's going to stop that. It's not next to nil when you have anti-crime driving around, when you have a traffic enforcement driving around, when you have highway, when you have a fully stocked precinct, when you have undercover units, when you have anti-crime, when you have borough crime, when you have a conditions team. It's so much greater. And I'm telling you right now, the way it is right now is the only reason that happened, because he was not worried about getting shot walking in that door. In a different time in New York City, he would have been running towards that door instead of walking. He would have sprinted towards that door if it was an intentional. He did not do that. He walked towards that door because that omnipresence is gone, and it's a direct factor with the low manpower and what this idiot for a mayor did. I'm sticking with my point. Blood is on his hands. He intentionally wanted to lower the NYPD, and you see it here. You see it here. We should all be out working right now, sweating our butts off on a hot summer day in the city, all over the place. And we're not because we're not in there. Our heads aren't in the game. And again, no one's where they're supposed to be, because all we're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul, and no one's aware of where they work or what they're doing. And I see it all the time. I always defend cops that are on their phone, but I see guys playing poker on their phone in the middle of the day in New York City. They're getting caught with people right behind them videoing them. I mean, what are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing? I love poker. I play poker games all the time, but this administration has failed not only the members of the NYPD, they've failed the public. And again, I'm going to say it again, there's blood on their hands. If that shooting, this kid walking down the block, robbing somebody in broad daylight in a summer hot, it's been hot in New York City. Kid's got a hood up. He's got a mask on, and he's got balls enough to not only sit there and argue with the guy, but fire a warning shot in the air and not worry about it. It's only a result of it. It's only a result of this failed administration.
Yeah. Now, Goyer?
Well, before you go, I just want to say, do you think that shot was documented somewhere? You think the shot spotter went off? You think...
Yeah, again, we disabled so many of our shot spotters, or we just never fixed them when they became disabled. I don't think that incident was reported.
Yeah, probably. That's why I'm joking about it, but probably not. I would say odds are there was never a report taken for a shot fired.
Shootings are down, Eric. Historic lows. There were no shootings in New York City
exactly.
that day. As a matter of fact, that wouldn't even count as a shooting in New York City, because no one was struck with that bullet that we know of. We don't know that it landed somewhere, but that wouldn't even count as a shooting.
Yeah. That's right. And that it's kind of like that old saying, if a bear falls in the woods, nobody hears it. Did anything happen? So if no one reports this, if the shot spotter doesn't go off, it never happened. So, as KB said, if it's not in the 61, it never happened. Yeah, exactly. It never happened.
Yeah. The problem is we not only have a hiring problem. I noticed who was it in the chat? Joe Ramirez mentioned about the worldwide police hiring crisis. But in New York, we not only have a hiring crisis, but we have a retention crisis. So you're not getting enough cops to replace the ones who are leaving, and the ones, the experienced guys can't wait to run out the door. And the problem here is that the issues at play here, nobody's talking about it because their own self-interest come into play here. Okay, speaking about it is not good for their aspirations, and their opportunities. So because of that, you're getting problems like this. So
I gotta laugh. Samara Cohen said it's a tree, Eric. You're right, it is a tree. My analogy about a bear falling in the woods. You're right, it's a tree. Yeah. Shout out. Listen, we're 2 hours and 34 minutes into it. As you said, we can hit 3 and 4 hours, no problem. These things go fast. Thank you so much. It's Monday morning. We appreciate it. You're here with the Finest Unfiltered. These are good discussions. We're not running out of content anytime soon. For the naysayers out there, the content is it never stops. It never stops. John, what are your thoughts?
Speaking of content, before we start to wrap this up, we got a lot of stuff. There's some bills coming out in New York State, both in the Assembly and Senate, 2 different bills about that they want illegals. And some of them, the wording on it's a little iffy. Sometimes they say non-citizen, green card holders. But when you read the bill, to me, it says everybody. We'll get into that probably on Friday. They're looking for illegals to become police officers and firefighters. So NYPD, FD&Y, and as well as there's a bill for them allowed to be in all the surrounding counties in New York State for police forces and for any fire departments. Complete insanity. We're not going to get into that today. We'll probably talk about that on Friday. But while we're on the subject of content creation, let's go to the Village Idiot, Kaz Daughtry. Here's his latest video. I think this is the best one by far.
Around 8 o'clock in the morning is the first call, which is with the senior leadership, and we update the mayor on anything that he needs to know for the day. I stop and talk to my staff. Sometimes I do a quick Zoom call from here. For me, I like to be outside. This is the We Outside Summer 2025, so I am outside. A lot of my calls I normally take from the office in the car.
It was a DV incident. A male black 18 with his baby mama, female Hispanic 30, got domestic. He slashed her on the arm, then took the baby, took off. Apparently he was choking the baby out this morning.
In the canvassing for the child, we called out 1 extra car for my precinct, Staten Island Aviation, SRG, DOS messaging, and Major Case came out to get up on his phone, and we have recovered him and the baby. He's under arrest for stabbing and custodial interference, and the baby's unharmed, but we're going to go have it checked out anyway.
Stop by the fire department headquarters, where I thank the staff for coming in today. Just show my support and I thank them for their service and their duties to the city of New York. And they always put others before themselves. They're a true dedicated public service. There was a firefighter that was injured. He was in the hospital for a little bit. We were praying for him. And this is one of the best parts of the job, is watching him walk out the hospital to his brothers and sisters, and just erupting cheers. And it was really good to see him leave his hospital facility and to go home. Stop by Rikers Island for a quick sec to check on the correction officers there and thank them for their service on behalf of the city and this administration. Stop by one of the basketball games where I got to see some of the youngsters playing in the tournament. Obviously, I can't pass up an opportunity to get in the court. And as you can see, I still haven't lost my jump shot. Every time I shoot, buckets, because it always goes in 95% of the time. Then from leaving the island, going over to stopping in Bayside and talking to community residents, I really do enjoy speaking and listening to them, because this administration is about delivering real results. Also, my role as a deputy for public safety is speaking at some of these public safety graduations. This was the Health and Hospital Police had a graduating class, and I was honored to be one of the keynote speakers there. Thank you. Stay tuned for your next day in the life of Kaz Daughtry, Deputy Public Safety.
So, I mean, I saw this video. He had about 0 views on it, so I did him a favor and I shared it, and it went completely viral, and everyone's been getting on him. Katie Honan, reporter from the city, I think she was the first to note about, because I just couldn't even believe how much this kid loves himself. I mean, when you listen to the song, it should be against the law to look this good. It's like, dude, are you serious? But Katie Honan reported first time look in the offices at 375 Pearl. Look, no one's working there. Do you know how much money they're spending for this office? You know how much money a month they're spending for this office? And there are 0 people there. You know why? Because they're probably all working from home on overtime. I mean, he looks at a cubicle because probably there's only ever like 1 or 2 people in there. So absolutely disgraceful. And honestly, like one of my notes, like when I tweeted about it, when I retweeted it, is what I said is I'm like, this kid loves himself, but he just showed us that he does absolutely nothing throughout the whole day. Like, I don't know what he does. He doesn't know what he does. He couldn't even explain what he did. It's like, all right, so you walked into an empty office, you put your stupid shirt on, then you drove over to FD to give them a high five, then you went somewhere else and you took a jump shot. And then what you really did is you spent your whole day making this video. So there's absolutely no need for your position. There's no need for your car. There's no need. Like, what were those briefings from John Shell and NYPD operations about? What was he updated on? And what does he do with that information? He never explained it, right? Obviously, there's no need for it. To me, it looks like it's busy work. It looks like, honestly, Kaz, you just made the best case on why your position should be eliminated, because you do absolutely nothing but waste New York City taxpayer money. And obviously, we could dump the lease at 375 Pearl. The secret office is no longer needed.
Yeah. Busy work is the word, you know. Lots of that over there. But it's interesting to note that if me and John were to come back right now, by the way, DCAS needs to sign off on it, okay? Because in terms of because of the payroll, the addition to the payroll, and here we have an office that's empty right now. How many millions of dollars is the NYPD paying for that? Is rather the city of New York paying for that right now, right? And additionally, right, in addition to that, Kaz's role, you know, what this guy's getting paid like $250K for what exactly? You know, if Kaz came out and just said he was the chief morale officer, at least we know what he does. But you know, none of his videos are to raise morale. It's just about him. Okay. And the other thing I'll say to this is I like Kaz. I was a detective, and I never really wanted to become boss, because one of the problems for me with that is I saw all the administrative work that my bosses had to do, and I said, nah, I don't want to do any of that crap. I don't have the patience for that, so I don't want it, you know. And my thing is, Kaz is in a role where, you know, deputy mayor, you would think is primarily an administrative role with a lot of paperwork, right? And Kaz himself has said before that he never wanted to be a supervisor because he wanted to be out on the streets. So the problem for me here is you're running around with the title right now and the rank and the prestige, but you don't want the accountability, and you don't want to have to do the administrative stuff that's, you know, that rank entails, you know. Now, I'm sorry if you don't want to do the administrative work, but the rank, you know, if I took the test and I become sergeant, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do that paperwork too, that administrative stuff too, because it comes with the rank. Okay, so for him to say that he just likes going outside there and not being in the office is like, to me, I'm like it seems to me like you just like the rank and you like the prestige and you know and the honor, but you don't want to do any of the work. And to John's point, we still don't know what he does, you know.
Well, he just told you what he does. Nothing. He drives around, has people film him, and he shakes people's hands, right?
Yeah.
He just told you exactly what he does. He solidified the questions that we had. We've been asking, how many takes does it take to make these videos? Like, how much time does he spend in these videos? He just told you. It took the whole day. Took the whole day. They had to plan this whole thing out. He told you, I get in the car, 8 a.m., somebody picks me up. Life is grand. I contact the mayor. Who knows what they talk about. Then I go to an empty building to do God knows what. Then I go shake hands at a basketball game, take jump shots. Those are buckets, you know. I go around shaking people's hands. That's why I said, you know, I said in another podcast, same thing, Marlon. Why don't we just be honest and say he's the deputy mayor of content creation or the deputy mayor of community affairs? Let's be honest. Why can't the mayor just say, I took this guy and decided that I'm going to have him boost morale. I'm going to have him go around, make videos, and boost morale. But thank you so much for showing us what you do. Absolutely nothing. Because if you have time to make all these videos, to film you just going out shaking hands? What do you really do? You know, and think about it. We can have right now, we can have a whole collage of all the videos he's done and start rating them, the top 100. And how many videos has he done? He doesn't do anything. But you know what? We appreciate it. Next time, could you start showing us if there's anyone's names on those offices in 375 Pearl? It's a waste of money. Nothing going on. But seriously, how many takes did it take to make that video? But by the way, I like the song. It was kind of catchy. I was like, I saw myself bopping around to that video. I would say that and chopped cheese are probably in the top 5. I don't know if there's any other videos you guys like. And also, you know, calling out this podcast, talking about us at a gala. That's probably one of the top videos too. So thank you, Kaz. I appreciate it.
Well, what does a staff do too? What do you need a staff for? He does nothing. So what does he have a staff for? I'm confused. Are they just the video guys who produce this video? Yeah, I guess. But look how many cubicles there are. There's like 40 cubicles in there. You know?
Oh my god.
There's at least like 10 in there. That's crazy.
And that's a different shirt too, right? How many, like, I know we kid around, but how many shirts do you think he has? 100?
Yeah.
200?
Dude, I want to see his closet, bro. I want to see what his closet looks like. He must have an executive closet just stacked with new embroidery, his dumb Kaz hat, deputy mayor, public. Like, these idiots got to walk around with everything embroidered. You know, they all got it from Adams, but Adams, Kaz, and Shell, they walk around like with everything all over them. Like, dude, the amount of money we're spending for this idiot to go around and create content is insane. And by the way, like, he works on this harder than we do. You know what I mean? Like, he works on this harder than we do. We actually are content creators, and we are YouTubers, and we are social media handles, right? And like, he works on this harder. The difference between him, we don't really spend that much money. This kid is spending millions and millions of dollars. It's insane. And you see what he's driving around. He's being chauffeured around. This thing has all the latest toys. You're paying for all this, from his head to toe terrible dress all the way up to that stupid bag that he's carrying, to every piece of equipment he has, to his entire office, to his advanced team, his security team, his 7 cars that he needs. I mean, disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Here's another question. Why is he getting briefed by Chell? Huh? I'm like, shouldn't he be, okay, he's deputy mayor, whatever. Shouldn't he be getting briefed by the PC? I mean, maybe am I missing something here? And well, why are we seeing videos of him and not the PC getting briefed? You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here.
Yeah, and Juju wants to say that that's why the podcast's so small. Well, Juju, I got news for you. By the end of the year, we're going to be bigger than the NYPD's channel and everything else. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You know, you want to say small or whatever you want to say, that's fine. But we'll be bigger. We'll be bigger than the NYPD by the end of the year. So,
you know, I honestly, I watched it a couple of times because I found myself bopping around to that music. It was pretty good. But so, okay, Taz, what do you do? Because that's what we're trying to figure out. We know you go around shaking hands, but you said the day in the life of, what it's like for my day. What is your day? And if you weren't filming yourself creating content, what would your day be filled with? What would you actually be doing? If you weren't out shaking hands and you weren't wearing a different shirt and you weren't filming videos, what would you do? Think about it. There's probably a video surfacing almost every day. What is he actually doing? What is the responsibility of the deputy mayor of public safety? If we had to ask him right now, like, how many fire inspections are being held, would he know? What is the manpower for the fire department? What is the manpower for sanitation? What's the manpower for the sheriff's department? What is their mission right now? I don't see any of that. What does he do? What does he do? I don't even think he knows. Honestly, did Kaz and Eric Adams have a conversation like, here's your responsibilities? Or is it like, here you go. We're just going to label you the deputy mayor. Have at it, brother. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, dude. Again, I think he just showed New York City taxpayers that his whole assignment's a huge waste of money. And just to go back on like Marlon's point, like why is Shell briefing him? It's a really valid point. Why is Shell briefing him? He never elaborated on why he's getting briefed. Like, what is the chief of department who's been in the NYPD for over 30 years debriefing shouldn't even be a third grade detective, a cop, basically? Why is he debriefing him? For what reason? Is Kaz overseeing anything? Is Kaz going to change anything? Is Kaz is there to supervise, to make sure that the NYPD hit all aspects of that investigation and that job and that job properly? Or is he just taking that debriefing to go run out on the media? And then again, it leads me to then, perfect. We don't need a deputy mayor of public safety. John Shell should just got his fat ass on the news and told everybody what it is. That's the end of it. Like, we don't need two fat guys running around on the media. You only need one. You don't need to play for Batman and Robin. You could just have the one. Have the one. There was absolutely, I didn't see any reason on why he was being debriefed or what he has to do with any of it. I mean, his whole day is like, I just get to drive around and do whatever the hell I want. Again, I relate Kaz to that traffic kid who you put in plain clothes and you let him play anti-crime, and everyone's like, what the hell is this kid doing? Don't ever put him in an RMP again, and don't ever let him drive in plain clothes ever again.
Yeah. It's a huge missed opportunity for him, because you don't really have a role, so you should really be spending your days certainly fixing a lot of the issues, or at least trying to get the resources to the NYPD that we talk about, So instead of like wasting time with these videos, we want to see more doing, Kaz, and less show, more do. Okay, and we're not seeing those videos from the PC themselves. So why are we seeing it from you when you have no role? Okay, but I see you in the chat there, Rodney. Shout out to you, Rodney. Rodney Gitones. He's a former 7-7 alumni. Good guy. Hope you're doing well, brother.
It's outstanding. I mean, I want to thank him, on behalf of the Finest Unfiltered. It's more content. It's hilarious, honestly. It keeps me entertained. But to have the time to make these videos, you have to ask yourself, let's be honest, what does he really care about? He cares about himself. What is he doing all day? And how many salaries is he getting? Is he getting a salary from deputy mayor and a salary as a detective? Like, what's happening with his pension? These are questions that still have not been answered. How is he getting paid? What is his role? And that's a great question, Marlon. And if you are being briefed on what? Is it about drones? Is it about technology? Is it about planning? Are you the liaison to the mayor? What is your role? He never he just says, I'm going here, I'm going there, but he doesn't really say what he's doing. He doesn't, because he doesn't know. So you know what, Kaz? If you really want to address this issue, can you make another video and tell us what you actually do? Why do they pick you up 8 in the morning? Why do you talk to the mayor? What are they briefing you about? What do you actually do? What administrative paperwork do you do? What is your role? If you didn't go and just shake hands, what is the role of deputy mayor? Do you hold any briefings, meetings? Do you change plans? Do you orchestrate events that help public safety? Brother, what do you do, man? Please tell us what you do, because we can't figure it out.
Yeah. I see Crazy 10-7 in the chat. He says the police department doesn't answer to the deputy mayor of public safety. They don't. But it seems to me like Kaz is in a lot of videos directing cops. He was in that video. He was in a picture during the flooding of a couple of days ago. A lot of the city's infrastructure, which we've talked about here, were flooded, and he was in the picture seemingly directing ESU. So he doesn't have a role, but yet he jumps in and seems to be, giving orders. So we're confused ourselves over here about what exactly his duties entail.
Well, traditionally, the NYPD didn't fall in the deputy mayor of public safety's purview, but now it does. I mean, I don't care what the line says. The lines also say deputy commissioners can't get overtime. Where they do.
Yeah.
It also says that deputy mayors you should have had to retire from the NYPD, which he hasn't, because people are saying here he's assigned to MELD. He is. He's listed as a first grade detective in the NYPD. He's still active in the NYPD. So everything that we know to be true is no longer true because, again, forget the rules under the Adams administration. Laws don't even apply. So it's like, all of the stuff you guys think oh, they can't do that. Well, they're doing it. So get that out of your head. Last thing, we're at 3 hours. I think we got to get out of here. Here's one thing I think we could all get around, regardless of your political affiliations, regardless how you feel. Alex Stein, he's out in front of the White House. He's protesting Tom Homan. I think it's a valuable cause. Let's hear what he's got to say.
We're here at the White House.
Oh, what happened to you?
We're calling out Tom Homan's border policies. All big booty Latinas deserve amnesty, Tom Homan. We're calling you out. If you're a 9, you're fine. Big booty Latinas deserve to stay. Tom Homan, you heard our message. I'm outside. I would like to sit down with you and protect all big booty Latinas. We're here to...
He's a complete maniac, that guy.
Well, as a man that always loved Latinas, that has been my weakness and my Achilles heel. I'll get behind that. I agree. Save the big booties.
Yeah.
So I've broken my neck many times looking at big Latina booties. So yeah, I'll help. I'll get behind that.
It was that directed to his AOC. Yeah.
Yeah. He was following. Did you ever see that video with him following around AOC?
Yeah.
Saying, I love you, big booty Latina. He's hysterical. Like there's something wrong with him, but he's funny. So, all right, people. Anything before we get out of here, guys?
No, listen. Let's just advise our friends and listeners, of course, Monday morning. Thank you, everyone. Tune in tomorrow. Sal Greco will be on, of course. You know it. 13:05 and then 10-4 Tavern. Check them out. They're coming on at night. And then Wednesday, we have the Executive Perspective, and we'll be back as well. Got a good interview coming for you. A packed week, the finest Unfiltered. To all the naysayers out there who said we run out of content, we have so much content we can't even get to it. If we tried to get to all the content, we'd be here for 5 hours. And some of you, I know you got the stamina, you sit with us. But you know what? After 3 hours, my ass is telling me it's time to go. So check out all the shows. It's a packed network. I think we got great different aspects of police work, different perspectives. Tom Joyce, Pete Faselli do an awesome job with 10-4 Tavern. Those guys have a who's who cast of characters and great guest appearances. Check them out. Really opens up a broad aspect of policing for the entire nation. And then the Executive Perspective. I mean, a bird's eye view of what it's like to be an executive in the NYPD. And of course, Sal Greco giving you political take on things. He's got a network of political socialists, socialites in this country. So check out Sal Greco, of course. And then, of course, John, myself, and Marlon kicking it back, giving you the unfiltered truth. So, fellas, thank you.
Yeah. 10-4 Tavern has the former superintendent-in-chief of Boston PD tomorrow at 7:05 p.m. So should be another interesting conversation hearing from cops outside of New York City. So have a good day, guys, and be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Wednesday, we're going to have former retired Inspector Corey Pegues on, so stay tuned for that. We'll start promoting a little later today. Looking forward to that. And that's it. Finance Unfiltered, baby. We'll be back at you.
Around 8 o'clock in the morning is the first call, which is with the senior leadership, and we update the mayor on anything that he needs to know for the day. Staff, sometimes we'll do a quick Zoom call from here. Me, I like to be outside. This is the We Outside Summer 2025. So I am outside. A lot of my calls I normally take from the office in the car.
It was a DV incident. A male black 18 with his baby mama, female Hispanic 30, got domestic. He slashed her on the arm, then took the baby and took off. Apparently he was choking the baby out this morning.
In the canvassing for the child, we called out one extra car for increasing Staten Island Aviation. SRG DOS messaging, and Major Case came out to get up on his phone, and we have recovered him and the baby. He's under arrest for stabbing and disorderly interference. And the baby's unharmed, but we're gonna go have to check that anyway.
Stop by the fire department headquarters where I thank the staff for coming in today to show my support and I thank them for their service and their duties to the city of New York. And they always put others before themselves. They're a true dedicated public service. There was a firefighter that was injured. He was in the hospital for a little bit. We were praying for him. And this is one of the best parts of the job is watching him work at the hospitals with brothers and sisters and just erupting cheers. And it was really good to see him leave this hospital facility to go home. Stop by Rikers Island and check on the correction officers there and thank them for their service on behalf of the city and this administration. Stop by one of the basketball games where I got to see some of the youngsters playing in the tournament. Obviously, I can't pass up an opportunity to get in the court. And as you can see, I still haven't lost my jump shot. Every time I shoot, buckets, because it always goes in. 95% of the time. Then from leaving the island, going over to stopping in Bayside and talking to community residents, I really do enjoy speaking and listening to them because this administration is about delivering real results. Also, my role as a deputy for public safety is speaking at some of these public safety graduations. This was the Health and Hospital Police had a graduating class, and I was honored to be one of the keynote speakers here. Thank you. Stay tuned for your next day in the life of Kai's Wall Street Deputy Public Safety.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?